Good evening, and welcome to the August 18th, 2025 Select Board meeting. My name is Ron Schneider. I'll be chairing the meeting tonight. I will ask for introductions to my right.
Sean Walsh, Assistant Town Manager.
Greetings, Colin Loisel, Town Manager.
Good evening, Eric Eldridge.
Hi there, Jackie Gilfus.
Good evening, Ron Cohen.
Good evening, Adele Coughlin.
Good evening, Jacqueline Schnackertz, Executive Assistant.
I will ask everyone who's able to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
Do you want to do the opening?
The following meeting is being recorded and broadcast through Tyngsborough Media. The meeting is available through our local cable access channels on Comcast and Verizon Fios, and as a live stream on our website, www.tyngsboroughma.gov. A recording of this meeting will be available through the video on demand portion of our website. Open meeting laws require that any member of the audience who intends on recording either video or audio so declare that now. After instruction from the State Fire Marshal and the Tyngsborough Fire Chief, in the event of an emergency, there's an exit directly across from me and one to my left. With that, we will start the meeting. Meeting minutes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move that we approve the regular session meeting minutes for July 28th, 2025.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That carries 5-0-0.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve but not release the executive session meeting minutes for July 28th, 2025.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That carries 5-0-0. Next item on the agenda is citizen and business time. If any citizens or businesses wish to address the board on matters of interest to the public, you can feel free to come up. I will ask that if you're coming to speak about the Yellow House, please wait till we open the public meeting for Yellow House, which will be the next item on the agenda. But otherwise, feel free to come up and speak on anything else. Seeing none. Item number 4, the public hearing for the entertainment license for Yellow House Cannabis, 405 Middlesex Road, which is being continued from our July 28th meeting. Mr. Eldridge.
Mr. Chair, the public hearing is open, but I would like to read a letter that was addressed to the board and was asked to be read into the minutes. To the selectmen, we respectfully request that you turn down any additional licensure for the so-called Yellow House pot shop. We understand that the board must investigate and seriously consider any license application. In this case, even the most cursory investigation would reveal a chaotic situation on Middlesex Road. We cannot imagine that the board would add to the chaos. Any short-term gain to the town, for example, tax collections, would be offset many times by the cost of additional policing. An approval raises a specter of more outrageous applications, certainly something no one in this neighborhood wants to see. As always, thank you for taking our opinion into your consideration. Sincerely, Robert and Regina Preventure, 19 Highland Street, Tyngsborough, Mass.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board on the issue of Yellow House? Please come forward, state your name and address.
John Murphy, 61 Ting Road.
Welcome.
I just want to speak out against providing an entertainment license to the Yellow House for a myriad of reasons. One being the traffic, which everyone else has mentioned. I apologize for not being able to go to the planning board meeting, but Mr. Garneau spoke up against that, and like him, I wish that there were more people that were able to come to these meetings and express themselves. That's one of the side issues I have. It seems like the same people tend to come up and speak in favor or against items that the rest of the town really should be coming up and speaking more. So I'd really invite more people to actually get involved. The reasons for not wanting that entertainment license, aside from the traffic, is that this is a retail business. It's not designed to be a place that people linger at. When the license was first given out so that they could sell their cannabis, that was not anything that was ever taken into consideration, that there'd be an entertainment or anything beyond that in that space. And to me, providing an entertainment license for a retail facility invites more of the same. Not just the one across the street, which again, I have huge issues with competing traffic and just even looky-loos back and forth causing more danger and also, you know, risk of harm to pedestrians and everyone else in that area. But it also invites any other retail establishment to request the same license, and you wouldn't have anything to stand on to deny them because you've already opened that door. So for those reasons, I really think we really should be very careful, not just for this particular license, but for any license in the future, as to how you're evaluating that case. And I appreciate your input. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to address the board? Please, come on up.
Hello, my name's Almarinda Silva, and I reside at 26 Appaloosa Circle. And I just wanted to echo pretty much what Mr. Murphy has said, our concern for, you know, added traffic and added police cost. And just, I hate to say it, but the type of people that would attract to this nice, quiet town is not something that my husband and I saw when we purchased our home here in this property. We would like to maintain the rural, quiet community, and I don't believe that would help maintain that situation. The other thing is, I just found out about this meeting, just to mention what Mr. Murphy was saying. I don't know if there's a way to maybe make these issues a little bit more public. I literally just found out through friends that this issue was taking place, along with some other issues that are not being addressed tonight. But if there's a way to reach out more to the community so the community is aware and can come and voice their concerns, I offer that as a suggestion as well. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Do you want to invite Mike Allen up? He just...
The applicant is here.
Yep, okay.
Hi,
Hello.
Terry and Mark O'Keefe, 65 Alpine Way. I also agree with the things that John and Almarinda have just said concerning traffic issues. I too am concerned that if one of the establishments is allowed to get a license, that the establishment across the street will also ask for a license, and that's going to add to more of the congestion. We're concerned that if they do get a license and they are doing their activities, that will be distractions to other drivers going through that area, creating more accidents. Another concern I have is that even though it's been said that they will not be able to use the products at the time after they buy them in the parking lot while these activities are happening, I believe if there are bans and things going on, that products may be used, and that's a really big concern to me, especially sending those drivers back out onto the road. And I'm just concerned about, too, for the young people. What message are we sending to the young people in this town? I mean, it's bad enough we already have 2 of these establishments, but now we're going to have these kinds of activities going on. I just don't think it's a good message, and I'm really afraid to be losing our nice small town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark O'Keefe, 65 Alpine Way. I also agree with Mr. Murphy and my wife say, but I also, in spite of it also being a distraction, it wasn't set up like this for a venue of this sort, and we don't, normally you go to a pharmacy to buy drugs because originally pot was supposedly for pain, and then it was for recreational use, but we don't have these venues at liquor stores and CVS's, so I don't think that it's appropriate for this place here, especially in that street.
Thank you very much. Mr. Allen, did you want to address the board again this week? Please, you're always welcome.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Nice to be back before you again. This is the 3rd meeting I've been to. I did attend the planning board meeting this past month as well, and spoke to the board about similar concerns that were raised at that meeting. And Look, I understand. I've been working in the cannabis industry for 9 years now, as a security and compliance consultant. Prior to that, spent 30 years in law enforcement. Was a police chief my last 5 years. So I understand local issues. I understand traffic issues very well. I can't sit here and say that nothing would ever happen. I would never say that. What I can say is these things don't, a lot of the concerns and things that generally come up whenever these events or licenses come up for discussion in municipalities, there is a lot of fear and trepidation that people have, because it's never happened before. You've never had an event before at any of these facilities. It's new to Tyngsborough, but it's not new to me, is what I can tell you. And I hope you take that with the deepest level of sincerity, that these events are very common in cannabis. At other establishments, I've been responsible as a consultant, working on behalf of operators, coordinating these events, planning these events, planning for traffic control, planning for security and public safety. That nobody's more concerned with that than me, as an owner of an establishment in your community. So I get all these concerns. I'm not minimizing them in any way, okay? But I believe that we can do the things that we'd like to do. We're having events already anyway. The only thing we're really talking about is adding an entertainment component to it. And when we talk about entertainment, if this board feels uncomfortable with us having live entertainment outside, meaning a band, then we won't do it. I get it. I don't think it'll be an issue, because it hasn't been at other events that I've planned, at other facilities, in other communities. But I get the concern, and I'm willing to work with the board to ensure that if you were to allow and issue our permit, to do it on an event-by-event basis, to do it with constraints or restrictions in place that would allow for the permit to be revoked immediately at the board's discretion or the police chief's discretion if anything unsafe were to occur or be observed in any way. We have procedures and processes in place to ensure we can do these things in a very safe manner. But again, I'm not going to sit here and say nothing could ever possibly happen. But I can tell you that it hasn't happened from what I've seen in the projects, in the events that I've been involved in, and I'll work closely with the board and with the police chief to make sure we do this the right way. I don't want to do this in a way that's going to create a public safety issue, a neighborhood issue. I hate to say this, it sounds cliche, but to put a little bit of trust in that. I know what I'm doing, and I can do this in the right way. And if I don't follow through with that, then pull my permit, is what I would tell you.
Good, thank you. I will open up,
Do you want me to just give you a background on the planning board's
please.
comments? So as Mr. Allen noted, he attended the planning board meeting on August 7th. Included in your packet is a letter summarizing the concerns, and they've largely been addressed. But for the record, they unanimously recommended against granting the license, citing public safety risks related to increased traffic, noise pollution and potential distractions to motorists driving past the establishment, operational impacts caused by vendors, musicians, and similar participants occupying essential parking spaces, thereby limiting the ability to safely and efficiently operate the business while hosting festivities, traffic congestion from excessive vehicle backups, driver confusion, and an overabundance of cars attempting to enter or exit the property. License scope allows repeated events rather than a single occasion, creating uncertainty regarding the frequency and potential disruptions. I also wanted to clarify what the allowed uses are. Mr. Allen referred to having events there. Under Massachusetts law, an entertainment license covers things like live bands, DJs. Oddly enough, music being played over a loudspeaker is also covered. You are not required to obtain an entertainment license to, say, have, I know one of the things that Mr. Allen has talked about is having vendors that he works with set up tables in the parking lot. Similarly, the bingo that he talked about was permissible because there was no amplified audio. What does remain true no matter what, with a license or without a license, is that, as with every other business, they're required to maintain a minimum number of parking spots, of which they exceed the minimum by, I think, double. But if they ever took up so many parking spots that they fell below that threshold, that's when there would be an issue with a license or without a license. So I just wanted to clarify what is or isn't. So the substance here is everything that Mr. Allen has described is permissible with the exception of the live bands, a DJ, or any outdoor amplified noise like music. Technically, the state law, which is from the Blue Laws era, talks about radio and stereo as well.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that wants to speak? Otherwise, I will open up to the board for comments. Oh, please do. Just, if you wouldn't mind just coming up and giving your name and address.
Diane LaRose, 6 Sleepy Hollow Lane. I'm sorry we walked in late and I missed the beginning, but everyone knows how bad the traffic is up there. The other day, we had a car, they're not supposed to take a left from the store across the street to go back towards New Hampshire. So to avoid that, they go straight across to Bahama Breeze. There was so much, they almost hit us, that we were coming up and they went straight across 4 lanes. There was so much congestion, possible accidents that I've been hearing about with amplified live music or music. I just think it's just gonna, increase that, and it already is a public safety. So I think that will be even more of an issue. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I just
Please.
make an additional comment regarding traffic issues? For the record, we, at our location, I can't obviously speak for the other location. I know there've been accidents there, some pretty serious ones. But we haven't had that issue at our location because we are on the opposite side of the road. Most of the traffic that comes out of our location has come from the north. That is a fact. And so when traffic comes in, they make a left turn in the left lane of Middlesex Road, and when they come out, they've got 2 lanes of travel coming out, so the egress out is a much safer traffic situation than what I have at my competitor's location, because again, most of the traffic comes from the north, so when they exit, they disobey that left turn only sign that they have there. They cross 2 travel lanes, and that's a very unsafe situation. 100% agree with that. And that's why you've had accidents. You've had multiple accidents at that intersection.
Do you track that number? Do you actually have, you say most, what do you mean by that? What's the percentage?
I spoke with the police department,
Yeah,
and
but-
that's where at my location, I can tell you there've been 0.
Okay, but you're saying most of the traffic exits heading north?
Yeah, we have
How do you know
we
that?
have
Just
data.
make sure that you're addressing
Yeah,
the chair, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
I'd
I mean,
like
how do
to-
we know that? Most of the
Yeah.
traffic heads north. I mean, and they're a lot newer, so I'm sure there's traffic that heads south, so they're doing the same thing in just the opposite direction. And it's, you know, it's fairly new, so the accidents, may they not have happened, that's great, doesn't mean that they're not going to, so.
Thank you.
Roger LaRose, 6 Sleepy Hollow Lane. I want to add to that that if you allow this at this location, tit for tat, the other location across the street will want to squelch some of that competition and be looking to the board again for that. So how do you allow one and not the other? And I think just having both locations across from each other is in itself part of the problem. It'd be nice if there were just one, or if the second location was a mile apart, so there wouldn't be congestion and mayhem from both directions. As my wife said, we almost got hit last week with that crossing over 4 lanes. And what I've started to do now, I go to Home Depot a lot. I go to Lowe's. I'll go the Hudson way and avoid all of that. And I'm talking to some contractors and guys that go to Home Depot, and they tell me the same thing. There's just so many near misses. I don't know the exact number of accidents, but this gentleman has said there have been some from the other location, and what's to say that won't start to happen at his location when they become more popular, because most people are going to that first location out of habit. It was the first location, so they haven't really gravitated to that. So I just think the whole idea is looking for trouble. And then if there are accidents where they're having live bands and someone is using any of the product from these places, you can't be sure that they're not. It just has that recipe for accidents under inebriation, or however you want to look at the intoxication level of that. I just feel that, again, if you allow this, I'd like to talk to the town lawyer who's liable, because I know from the idea of lawsuits, you go after the biggest fish. You'll start with the driver of the car. Well, you can't get blood from a stone. You move on from there to the establishment, and if it's easier, they'll end up in the town's doorstep. And, I mean, frankly, I don't want to see anybody killed. I don't want my taxes raised either. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Comments from the board?
I'll wait until we deliberate after we close a public hearing.
All right. If no other comments, then I will close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair,
Yes?
I move that the Select Board close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Do we do a roll call vote for that? No? Just- All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That carries 500. The public hearing is now closed. Now I will ask the members of the board if there's any comments.
You'd like me to go first?
Why not?
Okay, number one, I don't doubt Mr. Allen's sincerity in believing that the public safety is paramount. His past experience and everything that we've had in working with Mr. Allen absolutely shows that to be true, and I don't doubt that in any way. However, the concern I have is that this board, if something happens, it would be after the fact. I have concerns with any extra activity on that road. I think that I have concerns about Middlesex Road in general, people going left, not just out, but left into the establishment. It's something on our goals to look at how we address the traffic on there, whether it's Olive Garden, all of those types of things. I think that the concerns that the planning board raised, I watched the meeting, it was very consistent with what we had talked about. I think it's the increased traffic. I think it's the noise pollution, the rubbernecking. Hey, what's going on over there? I think that, again, it's not just the left turn out, it's the left turn in. That's coming from, the southbound lanes, and that's a concern of mine. I think that the other thing that we had talked about, the scope of the license being a year and unfettered as far as the number of events and which days they can occur. I don't think that that's in the board's best interests, and not just for the board, but for the town. I believe that it is our duty to help the business be successful, and we want to do that. But I think public safety is paramount, and I still have the same concerns that I had 3 weeks ago when we talked about it, relative to the traffic, all the items that have been discussed here. And I don't think that it's something that we can do at this time. I think it would be something that we could work with Mr. Allen to come up with something that would make people feel more comfortable. I just don't think we're at that point, at this point in time, with this particular application.
Thank you. Selectperson Gilfus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think ultimately what Selectperson Eldridge just said is also where I'm going, which is I'm not against this, and I do want to see the business be successful. I do want the added community engagement. And this is, I think, the most contentious issue I've seen come before the board in my year and change. We certainly never have this many people come to a public hearing. So in some ways, I'm really glad that you came before us just to have this conversation and for us to get the community thinking about sort of where the line is for folks. Because when we met 3 weeks ago, I mean, I think you saw my enthusiasm. I think there's a lot of reasons why I think that this is the right thing to do. I think that I agree with Selectperson Eldridge. I don't know that this application right now, under the terms as it's written, requested, makes sense. I think having individual requests by event so we can plan them differently and work more closely might make more sense. I really, I'm trying to be so mindful of the fact that your business has not done anything wrong, and that the issues that are happening across the street are not things that should fall on your shoulders to rectify or to justify. We are, as a board, as a town, really committed to economic development, and that's one of our goals also, is trying to make Middlesex a more inviting place for businesses to come. So, you know, the arguments about traffic, I mean, that is true. Like, having more activity on Middlesex brings more traffic, but I think we're also seeking more activity on Middlesex at the same time. And I think it's not your fault that we zoned that area for cannabis use the way that we did. I think having the two locations across the street from each other has been a detriment in a lot of ways, for your business, probably for the other business, for the residents. And I don't know, I mean, we can't really undo that. But I think we met 3 weeks ago. I felt like I had asked every question I could possibly think of. We said that it should go to the planning board for more discussion, because ultimately they were the ones that were the licensing authority for the cannabis establishment. The fact that they came back unanimously against it, I feel like it would be a disservice to them for us to ask for their opinion and then blatantly ignore it. So with all that being said, I think I'd like to see us do this a different way in the future. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Selectperson Cohen.
They both said so much. I'm not sure what else there is to be said here, but,
I've never thought so much about anything.
really. Well, first of all, thank you, everybody, for speaking. I mean, this is what, you know, the select board is set up to do. That's why we always have citizens' time. That's why we always put everything out there, what we're doing each day. And it's great to see people here talking about this. When you're around long enough, you'll see a lot bigger crowd than this, though. I'll let you know. But, you know, thank you, everybody, for coming out. You know, last time we met, you know, we wanted to get some more information. This was very unique. I learned a lot. I didn't know what exactly they needed, you know, for food trucks, and then we talked about the bingo. We talked about that last meeting. I didn't realize you don't need a permit for that, you know, so that's good to know that you're at least able to do that. And you have done it, and hopefully it's worked out well for you. We try to be very business-friendly, but we also have a lot of, concerns, and we're also have a lot of, we want the citizens to be a safe place for the citizens and the residents here. When I really look at this, and when I've received a lot of feedback, again, this was so unique, I think we had to really dig in a little bit deeper, which is why we wanted to bring it to a second meeting here. The biggest problem I have really is with the bands and the DJs. If you have a band or DJ, you don't set it up right next to a highway. And really, with the setup of the current business, you're close enough to the highway. I wish you wouldn't have used the rubbernecking, because I wanted to use that. You always have rubberneckers. And if you hear a loud noise, what do? Like, what is that? And in such a busy highway, that would be difficult to do. As it relates to other businesses, this would be the first time we've done this for a business, so it would cause other businesses to come in front of us. We are well aware of that. So there's a lot of issues here that I look at but really the big one really is the band and the DJs. I just don't think having that set up so close to Middlesex, a very busy highway, I think that would cause a problem. So that's kind of where I stand.
Thank you. Selectperson Coughlin?
Thank you. So I think you heard my concerns at the July 28th meeting. After that, I actually had an opportunity to speak to a couple of business owners in that area. And I know of 4 of them that actually, 2 of them approached me and had some concerns about the prospect of issuing the entertainment license. Coupled with that and the fact that I don't think that the public safety can be jeopardized, I really still feel strongly that this is a safety issue. My opinion hasn't really changed since July 28th. And I appreciate you coming forward, and I know that you wanted to work with the board and the planning board, but I still have concerns, and I'm going to go with the select board here.
Thank you. And I'll just echo what everyone else has said. My biggest concern is traffic. It doesn't have anything to, it's not your fault, but there's just a lot of businesses in a small area. We've got, your shop, the shop across the street. We've got the Olive Garden. We've got a casino just a few hundred yards down the road. All of those are contributing to a whole lot of traffic. It's almost like it's too successful, and our road just isn't equipped properly to deal with that kind of traffic. Once again, that's not your issue, but it is an issue. It is an issue that we need to, as a town and as the state, it's a state road, that they've got to figure out a way to deal with that so that businesses can operate safely. And those are my only comments.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question of the town manager?
You may ask a question.
When it comes to issuing entertainment licenses, let's imagine a scenario where it was a one-day request. Is it the expectation that the board is taking into consideration the very specific circumstance that business is? So, like, making a decision about a business that's on Middlesex compared to the exact same event, it could be the exact same type of establishment, but is on a back road where there's no traffic concerns.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
So
there's no question there, but you know what I mean.
The board has wide latitude to consider whatever factors it feels are relevant when it relates to granting anything, whether it's a special permit. In fact, in the special permit granting process, there's language about it being harmonious with the neighborhood. Those standards still apply, and it is certainly reasonable for the board to. And I think actually a good example on the entertainment front is that Tyngsborough has a mix of zoning, some of which hasn't been updated in ages, and so that's why you have in some densely settled residential neighborhoods, you have food and alcohol establishments. Think the one on Long Pond and Thirsties on the east side of the bridge. Those are in very densely situated residential neighborhoods, and during the COVID pandemic era, when we were allowing outdoor service and outdoor entertainment, the board could and did, in at least one of those cases, not grant the same entertainment licenses that it granted to, say, a business on Westford Road because it was so uniquely situated. One of those had, its only neighbors are residential homes. And so not only is it lawful, it is appropriate for the board to consider specific circumstances like that.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. That's very helpful. The other question I had was just in the way that we have historically thought about like the party at the bridge, we grant one-day entertainment licenses for that without having closed all of the streets around it. Has there ever been negative feedback about cars being distracted as they drive by or the rubbernecking? Have there been any incidents?
So we don't fully we close every road except for Middlesex, but on Middlesex we close the immediate closest lane. And a part of that is that the town doesn't have full jurisdiction over Middlesex Road, it's a state road.
Yeah.
It certainly, if you spend any amount of time at the block party, does result in rubbernecking. I think, just today on our website and social media, we kind of advise people, look, avoid the area if you absolutely don't need to be down there. So it is certainly something that does happen when the town hosts block party.
But we probably also have additional police detail and things like that that are.
Yeah, I mean, for instance, on Saturday, we have a whole NEMLEC contingency of motorcycle and bicycle
Of that corner.
police, which would be an incredibly unrealistic
For sure.
cost to put on a local business.
Yep, okay, understood. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. How should we proceed?
I can make a motion if you would like.
Please.
Mr. Chair, I move that we deny the application for entertainment license at Yellow House Cannabis at 405 Middlesex Road due to increased vehicular and pedestrian traffic in an area that is along our most accident-prone corridor, supported by police department crash and traffic data, and due to increased traffic and pedestrian traffic in an area already plagued by severe and sometimes dangerous traffic circumstances that are enhanced specifically in the area of the premise in question, as supported by police department data, as well as previous public meetings of this board attempting to address that issue.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That carries 500.
Mr. Chairman, is there anything moving forward? If I can be of help in shaping or crafting and some change to the bylaw that would allow for, like was mentioned, a one-day permit situation that would be more restrictive to the location and all the other factors that were talked about. Would that be something that the board would want to consider, looking at and changing moving forward?
Yeah, sure. I think that's something that we as a board need to think about and talk about. And if you've got some input on that, we'd certainly love to hear it.
Mr. Chair, I'd recommend that perhaps we have him work with our public safety folks and town administration on crafting something that, based on the concerns that have been voiced here, would make it less of a public safety concern, given the items that we've already talked about.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 6 on the agenda is the common victular license for a public hearing for Augusta's 440 Middlesex Road. I know go ahead, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, we're pleased to present an application for a new common victular license from Chicken Bites, Inc., doing business as Augusta's at 440 Middlesex Road in the former Mr. Max location. They are seeking permission to operate a restaurant 7 days a week from 6 a.m. until midnight. The applicant has an Augusta's location in Barica, which some of you may be familiar with. Their application is complete, and the appropriate fees have been paid. We requested feedback from departments having jurisdiction over this type of request, and none had any adverse comments or concerns. The applicant is currently working with the building department and the Board of Health as part of the standard permitting process for restaurants. The building inspector noted that certificate of use and occupancy will be required, and the Board of Health will require a plan review and food permit prior to opening the establishment. The applicant notified abutters of this hearing via certified mail, and an advertisement was placed in the Sun.
Thank you. We have two representatives from Augustus here tonight, Ryan Rosa and Joe Barrett.
Would you, Mr. Chair,
Yes,
would you like me to open the public hearing?
that would be great. Sorry, my
Mr. Chair-
apologies.
No. Mr. Chair, I move that the Select Board open the public hearing and waive the reading of the hearing notice and the legal ad.
Second.
All those in favor of opening the public hearing signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, that carries 500. Thank you, Mr. Eldridge.
Most welcome, sir.
Now we have two representatives from Augustus here tonight, Ryan Rosa and Joe Barrett.
Yes,
Welcome,
we'd like to
guys.
thank the Select Board for having us in today to talk about our common vic application. My name is Ryan Rosa, I'm one of the co-owners. There's four of us, my wife and two other partners, Sean and Sue Murphy, all Billerica residents, lifelong Billerica residents, and many of us have been employees of Augustus, and that's where we grew up, and this is.
How you doing? I'm Joe Barrett. I've been with the restaurant for 17 years. I've been managing the restaurant for the better part of the last 10 years. I think we have a good product that fits your society great, and we're excited to get going with you guys.
And we also have Mike Indelicato, who's going to be the manager on site in Tyngsborough. Mike's been with us for 7 years and making the big jump to take over his own shop.
Terrific. Thank you, guys.
If you want any background or questions, feel
Please.
free to ask. So, some of the things we prepared is, so Billerica's been, the location in Billerica's been around for 39 years. It was owned by the Strazzeri family. They took it on from their grandfather. I worked there as a teenager. Joe did the same thing. Been there 17 years.
Yep, since I was 14 years old. Actually, a week after my 14th birthday.
So,
Got that worker's permit.
my partners and I knew the Strazzeri family. They had an opportunity that they were looking to sell the business. We stepped in, I brought some partners in to help us out, and we took over the business. It was a big leap of faith. I came from corporate America, was working in finance for almost 20 years. I still do to this day, but Joe keeps me busy on the restaurant side. And we decided to take the leap of faith as an ownership group, and we've learned a lot. When we started the business, it was just the sub shop. We had 2 food trucks. Since then, we've taken over the ice cream shop next door in our building. We've added a 3rd truck, and we expanded our 2nd location to Foxborough, Massachusetts. So we're in the Foxborough Sports Center. It's a 3-sheet facility, very similar to Skate 3 down the street. And things have went well there. We actually relocated one of our trucks to Foxborough to help service the communities there. We find that the food truck business is a great way to outreach to the community, get people aware of your product that they typically wouldn't have known about. They show up to a birthday party, there's chicken bites, there's our catering menu if you go to a Billerica party, there's chicken bites at every single party. So I was actually at Skate 3 with my son at a hockey game and was driving down Middlesex and took a look to my left and realized that it was vacated. So I pulled into the parking lot, took a look around, and called the management company and started the conversations. They went out, visited us, love our product, and said, we want you to be the tenant in the space. So that's why we're here today.
That's great, thank you.
I'll add on. We've been successful for a lot of years. Adding to I know we've had our food truck in your town in the past. We've been in, I think, since the new ownership took over 5 or 6 times. The public already loves us. I will say from experience, we've always been busy since I've been there for 17 years. But the food trucks are just, you got people coming from 40 minutes out, getting chicken trays. We're big on catering, that type of stuff. And we're just trying to continue that public outreach and our expansion to Tyngsborough.
All right, thank you. That's great. That's a great overview. Is there anybody from the public that wants to address the board in this public hearing? All right, I will close the public hearing.
You got it. Mr. Chair, I move that the Select Board close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That carries 500. I will open it up to the board members for any questions or comments. Mr. Eldridge?
Yeah, so you have multiple successful locations. Are you planning on doing the exact same thing at this particular location, looking at doing anything different? This is an opportunity, in addition for you to apply, it's an opportunity for get the word out there. So
Yep.
tell us a
So
little.
have you ever been to our Billerica location?
I have not.
So inside, we have, to the left is really our sub shop. We have prepared foods, we have a 24-foot salad bar, and we do soups daily. So not only is our chicken bites our premier product, we do hot and cold subs, most of them chicken, but we also do steak and cheese. We have a whole deli counter, Italian subs, turkey, ham, cheese. Joe will go on with the list. And for us, we love that look and feel. When you walk in, it's a shopping experience for the customer. You're going in, you're being greeted by someone at your counter, they're taking your order, they're making it for you, and then you have a chance to browse around. It might be a chance for you to grab dinner at the grab and go. We have a whole drink selection. You might grab a soup for lunch with your sandwich, and then we have all desserts that we make in-house.
Yeah, I'll expand on that. We just recently, with the new ownership group coming in, have started offering breakfast. We've had a lot of applause from the community on, I wouldn't call them regular breakfast sandwiches. They're more like gourmet breakfast sandwiches. We put chicken, assortment of stuff on them. Unfortunately, with Dunkin' Donuts owning the building, we're not able to do breakfast. Something we would have liked to expand it, but, the next thing for us, I think, at this location with the casino right across the road, something we've talked about as a group is the late night experience. You guys don't have a lot of late night in that area. We're right across from I would say the main exit from the casino. We would like to make our footprint known there and maybe expand late night, but that's a conversation. That would be the next piece for us, I think.
Yeah, it's a little uncommon for us to apply for 12 a.m., and that's why we did it. I've been through this process with some other towns, and you just want to get it out in the open what our plan is. If there's a chance, and we put in our lease that if Dunkin' Donuts was to vacate the property, we would look to bring in breakfast as an option and have the first right for that. And the late night menu does open up different possibilities for us. Our Billerica location doesn't have sit-down. This location is going to have roughly 46 seats. Our location in Foxborough has 70 in beer and wine. So we're well-versed in the actual sit-down dining experience, but Billerica, you'll have people come in, they sit in their truck and eat a sandwich, and then they're on their way. So having the sit-down is a new environment for us. We'd like to have indoor music playing and just create, like I said, that experience. When you walk in, you feel like you're being greeted and taken care of from the moment you walk in until you sit down and leave the facility.
That's great, thank you. Further questions?
No, I think that was a great overview. The only question that I had is, when would you like to open?
So the construction plan, once we get the common vic, that'll be our trigger to really go forward with construction. The application has been submitted. We just submitted our plan with the Board of Health. Next up, I think, is fire. And once we get all the sign-offs, we're gonna push forward and look for late October, early November. We're not doing anything major in the facility, just really cleaning up and relocating some walls. We have to do some plumbing to relocate where our salad bar is gonna go. But salad bar was a thing especially when COVID happened, it went away. We were able to fight to keep it going because it's such a popular item. And when we looked at what was even in Nashua and Tyngsborough, the salad bar there's really just one other location, I'm not gonna say it, but it creates a new environment where you can go get that sandwich, that big chicken sandwich, but you can also get a salad. And there's soups, so it's not always a heavy meal that you're going to, and that's what differentiates us from some of the other locations.
Thank you.
Thank you. No other questions?
Select-Person Gilthus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to remain neutral, but I love Augusta's. Your food is delicious, very generous portions. I'm really excited to have that space be occupied again. I think it's a really important location for people to access. It's a great spot, so I'm glad that you stopped in and scooped it up. I'm curious, are you going to be using the drive-through window that's there?
At this time, we're not gonna plan on the drive-through. There's too many
I can only imagine the logistics.
confusing points
you
of
got two
entry
drive-thrus.
and Dunkin' Donuts doing their drive-through.
Yeah.
So right now, we left it in our lease to discuss it in the future if they were to reconfigure the parking lot, but as of now, it's not in our plan.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think that this is wonderful. I'm really delighted to have you in the community. It's something that I think I have experienced what you describe as that experience when you walk in, and it's a really unique, market feel, but it's also, the food's really good, and it's clean, and certainly with the ice cream shop now, just the vibes are great, and so having something like that in our community is going to be, I think, really appreciated.
We really appreciate that.
So,
Have you been in since the ice cream shop opened up?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Is there any suggestions to us with the location being in there, as far as the new location, when we're early in the planning phases, as far as application for what we're doing in-house or, getting our word out to Tyngsborough?
let me noodle. I think we can
Okay.
get in touch with you through Colin. But yeah, I think I'm excited about the idea of the late night because you're right. There isn't much that goes on in town after 7.
Yeah.
Really, the only place that people go to in the evening is Sullivan's. And so, am I wrong? That's the late night spot in town. And so having something that is sort of an alternative to just ice cream, I think people are going to be really excited about that.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Select Person Cohen.
I have no questions. Sounds like a great business, and look forward to you opening and checking you out.
Thank you very much.
And best of luck.
Select Person Coughlin.
I have no questions, but I am looking forward to this and perusing the salad bar, actually.
Awesome.
Because that did go away with COVID, so,
Did, yes.
yeah.
We were forced to shut it down, and there's a lot of people that were very angry about it, so we're happy to bring it back once restrictions let up. Do you want to mention like the opening day type of, you know, given the last,
Have you guys closed public comments? or-
We did close the public hearing, yeah.
do you want to like open the idea
Ask them a
of doing
question
an
about their
open
grand opening.
ceremony,
So-
that type of thing?
I have a question. I have a final question. Can you tell us about your,
Just discussing the opportunity for some sort of outreach engagement out of the gate with a ribbon cutting or some sort of
Yep.
event. I know that our other partner, Sue, who wasn't able to make it today, has
Mhm.
been working with radio stations, but after hearing the last meeting, I don't know that we're in the market for a one-day entertainment license, so we'll visit that.
hold that
We're
thought.
just
Yeah.
curious if it's different with the, you know, it's a plaza versus a turn-in, you know, it's something we were thinking about.
It's
I figured I'd bring it up.
Mr. Chair, I can have our economic development planner reach out to you, both about
Yeah, that'd be
options,
awesome.
but also about helping support a ribbon cutting.
Awesome.
Awesome, thank
Yep.
you very much.
And I
Thank
think
you.
I think it's great that the people that win all the money at the casino have a place to spend their winnings now as they're
We'll provide
pulling
some
out.
coupons in their windows out in the parking lot.
There you go. So thank you. I have no further questions. Thank you very much, guys.
Oh, if I can sorry, just one more thing that you reminded me.
Yes, please.
Today, as I was preparing to come to Select Board, I received a ring on my doorbell from the local football team. They sell coupons each year, and I would recommend that you find opportunities like that to plug in with the community because I think that that's one of the most common ways that people really get their businesses out. And I think you could probably take the spot that used to be Mac and Chews right in there.
Got it.
There you go.
Well noted, thank you.
Search and replace.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion?
I do, as someone who paid for one of those cards today.
That's what I'm saying.
I move that the Select Board approve the application for a common victualer's license for Chicken Bites DBA Augustas at 440 Middlesex Road as presented.
Enthusiastic second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That carries 500. Congratulations. Mr. Chairman.
Congratulations.
Thank you all
Thank
very
you.
much.
Welcome to
Thank you very
Dover.
much, nice meeting you all.
We look forward to this.
So do we.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the Common Victular Entertainment Wine and Malt on-premises license, public hearing for Big Al's Pizza.
This has got to be Big Al.
I hope so.
Mr. Chair, we are happy to present an application for a new common victular, entertainment, and on-premises wine and malt license from Big Al's Pizza at 266 Middlesex Road in the former 266 Pizza location. They are seeking permission to operate a restaurant 7 days a week from 9 a.m. until 11 p.m. The only form of entertainment being requested is a TV. Their application is complete with the exception of having the insurance information in because they're waiting to do a few more things before they're able to get that. So the license will be held until, if approved, until they get that information. We requested feedback from any department having jurisdiction over this type of request, and there were no adverse comments. The applicant will need to obtain a certificate of use and occupancy from the building department, and building permits will be required for any work that needs to be done. The Board of Health noted that the applicant has applied for a food establishment plan review and will be applying for a food permit.
Should we open a public hearing?
I would welcome that opportunity. I move that the Select Board open the public hearing and waive the reading of the hearing notice and legal ad.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of opening the public hearing signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, that carries 500. The public meeting is now open. Well, is there anyone from the public that wishes to address?
It's perfect, no audience for me. I like it.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
Do
So-
you want to give us a little bit of an
So my
overview
name
of
is
your
Alex
plans?
Nickerson. I grew up in Hudson, New Hampshire. I worked at Mike's Pie for the last 12 years or so, and we recently just sold. So now this place happened to open up at 266 Middlesex, and then I plan on opening a delicious pizza place in there. Pizza, beer, salads, desserts, sandwiches, yeah. There's 24 seats in there. Yeah, pretty standard pizza place. Mostly pizza focused.
Right. Do you have plans to change the interior or do
No,
much
so the
work?
only things that we've done is the floor, the health inspector required a new floor to be put in, which has been done. Other than that, nothing else has been changed structurally in there. Just, paint and
Yeah.
small things to clean the place up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I will ask to close the public meeting.
We can do that. I move that the select board close the public hearing.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That carries 500. Members of the board, Mr. Eldridge.
Sure. So, regular pizza place,
Yeah,
that's your specialty?
Hand toss, like New York style pizza.
Okay.
Yeah. They had a pretty good following from Mike's, and now that we left there, it's not doing well apparently, so I hope to get a lot of their business over there, which is good. Yeah, just, really good fresh subs, and fresh salads, and then just small amount of beer and wine. Three beers on tap, nothing crazy. And then just probably whatever seltzers are allowed to sell on that license.
What, assuming that all goes well, you got insurance, you get those types of things, what is your target for opening?
I was thinking like the second week of September.
Come right up.
So everything's pretty much good to go. The signs are going up this week. Well, I think they're going up this week.
Things are moving quickly.
Yeah, and then everything's pretty much cleaned up and ready to go in there. And, yeah, I hope to have the signs up before the block party so people can see that it's going to be opening,
There'll be a lot of foot traffic.
A lot of foot traffic, yeah. It is a busy location. I've heard, places in the past have done well there from what I've been told. I don't really know how the last places did, but I think we'll do pretty well there.
Good.
People like good hand-tossed pizza,
No further questions.
Selectperson Giltis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to be as enthusiastic about you as I was for Augusta's, but I have to try your pizza first.
You've tried there, so
But
it's
I
good.
have. I'm very excited
I've
at the
tested,
prospect of this.
Tested a few pizzas already. They came out fantastic.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at the camera, tell us anything else you want to say, is,
Yeah, I think it'd just be a great spot for, families and kids to come and watch a game. There's 2 big screen TVs in there now, so people can hang out and just relax and have some good food and, not have a full service dining, obviously, but just more relaxing.
will you have any delivery component, either in-house delivery or outsourced through like a DoorDash?
DoorDash and all the third-party deliveries, not my own delivery
I
service.
think that's for the best these days.
I've kind of learned that that's slowly disappearing over the last few years,
Yeah.
having your own drivers.
I'm excited. I look forward to it. Thank you,
Good,
sir.
good, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Selectperson Cohen.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Hope you're very successful, and I look forward to trying your pizza.
Thank you.
Selectperson Coughlin.
Yeah, I can honestly say I've never frequented any place called Big Al's, but I'm really looking forward to it. So,
Big Al's Pizza, yeah.
yeah.
So
yeah,
now
no,
there's-
I
they're
really
just-
am looking forward
There
to
just
it.
happened to,
in the
there was one
south.
that just opened in Billerica, which is crazy, right before I did. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, crazy.
Oh.
So hopefully mine's better than theirs.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, and I have no further questions, but welcome, and we wish you
Thank you.
all the best.
Is there anything that I need to do, or you guys request from me before I open?
Nope.
or something that
Tell
I
us before you open.
Yeah.
If you want a grand opening, we'd love to attend.
Okay, perfect.
Colin, you can arrange that, yeah.
Absolutely.
Mr. Eldridge?
I move that the Select Board approve the application for a common victualers weekday and Sunday entertainment for a TV and on-premises wine and malt alcohol licenses for Big Al's Pizza at 266 Middlesex Road, Monday through Sunday between 9 a.m. and 11 p.m. as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, that carries 500. Thank you.
Have you guys ever been? Thank you. Thanks for having me. You guys have never had Mike's Pie before? Have you been? Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
All right.
Someone in the back has.
So it'll be similar to that, but better.
My wife thinks that it's my job to support every business in town when it comes
Yeah.
to food, and I do my best.
Take your job very seriously.
Yeah, there's really not too much for pizza on this road, honestly. I mean, there's the Epigram, but those are small.
Yeah.
And then
Really different style. Yeah.
Tremonti, but yeah.
Well, good.
We wish you luck.
Thank
All
you
the
very
best.
much.
Appreciate it. Thank you
All right,
very
cool.
much.
Thank you, Mr. Big Al.
Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
All right.
That's it.
That's it, boss.
That's it.
That's it.
Item number 7, the town manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will just say that my diet has gone completely out the window between these two places opening, so I'll continue to have 100 shins up here. The Tyngsborough Police Department is hosting a back-to-school supply drive to collect school supplies for families in our community who are in need. You can bring supplies to the lobby of the police department through August 25th. Last week, the Middle School Building Committee had a chance to tour the new middle school, which has received its occupancy permit and will see teachers move in this week. Students will return for the school year on August 26th, and they'll be the first group of students to use the building. If you've driven by, you can see that the old school is down and the new school looks fantastic. I'm happy to share that as of today, we're still trending toward being under budget by close to $2.8 million. That number becomes much firmer as we wrap up on the key items, so I'll keep the board updated as we progress. We won't know for certain until the MSBA does their closeout audit, which can take up to 2 years, so we're certainly ending under budget. The final number will be confirmed by the MSBA once they do their final audit. On that note, residents are invited to a public open house on Saturday, August 23rd from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. That is the same day as the block party, but it starts a few hours earlier, so you can swing by the open house and then come celebrate the milestone at the block party. Tomorrow afternoon, I'll attend the Council on Aging meeting to learn more about how we can support their efforts to expand the offerings of programs and services with a focus on the after-hours programming that they launched earlier this year. I met a couple weeks ago with 2 members of the Council on Aging, and I know that there's still a big push to ensure that we have a diverse offering. They completed a pretty well-participated-in survey a few months ago that we sat down and looked at the data, so I'm excited to see what we can do to continue to advance that work. The Massachusetts Department of Public Health has increased the West Nile virus risk for Tyngsborough to moderate as a result of positive cases identified in multiple neighboring communities. In fact, all of the communities to the east of us are at a high risk right now. Tyngsborough is still at a moderate. We've published helpful information about avoiding West Nile virus at tyngsboroughmay.gov, but just summarily, residents should wear long sleeves when outside between dawn and dusk, wear a mosquito repellent, empty standing water regularly, and report potential breeding grounds like unused pools or large volumes of standing water to the Tyngsborough Health Department. This morning, we convened a meeting of all of our department heads at the new clubhouse in Ironwood Park for a goal-setting workshop. Assistant Town Manager Sean Walsh put the meeting together and did a great job helping departments to align their goals with the master plan as well as the draft set of goals that this board will discuss a little bit later on. In the coming weeks, Sean and I will work with departments to refine their goals, and we'll make a compiled goal book for our departments, which will be available for review by the board and the public, which will help us track against the progress. These, similar to your goals, are living documents, so depending on how you vote on your goals tonight, we'll share that back with departments so that they can make sure that their work aligns. Currently looking to hire a full-time communications specialist for our 911 communications center. We're accepting letters of interest and resumes through September 5th. You can learn more by visiting the HR page on tyngsboroughmay.gov. We're also currently looking to hire a new patrol officer for the Tyngsborough Police Department, also accepting resumes through September 5th, and you can find the information at that same link on tyngsboroughmay.gov. Happy to share that we've hired Eric Mitza to join our DBW team as the cemetery coordinator. Eric will begin in early September and will assume responsibility for coordinating burials and maintenance at the town cemeteries. The position has been vacant for a few months, and our DPW superintendent has been coordinating those efforts, so I appreciate his help with that, and I know that he's just as thrilled to have someone on board to focus on that work. And actually, this week, Jason Lobus started as our new skilled labor and mechanic within the highway division of the DPW. So they are back to previous full staffing, although they will remind me that they had one additional person in 1999, so I didn't want to miss that announcement. Last week, we received the initial conditions report from Gale Associates, which was hired over the summer to perform an exterior conditions assessment and cost estimate for the restoration of the exterior of the Winslow School. This was a CPC-funded project to explore the feasibility of a request from the Historical Commission to use the remaining $1.2 million from the May 2023 town meeting vote to restore just the exterior of the entire building. You may remember that in May of 2023, town meeting approved $1.5 million to tear down the additions and restore the outside of the original schoolhouse and also move it further up on the site. When I got involved in the project, our cost estimates showed that it was far too expensive, and so the project has been on hold, which prompted the Historical Commission to say, well, let's use the balance to just seal up the whole building. The report was not surprising. I've shared it with this board. CPC has seen it, and we'll make it available on the town website this week. The building has a lot of work that needs to be done to it. Gale Associates was on site last week to talk to Sean and I, as well as a couple members of the CPC, to walk through how they got to where they ended up. And so now the next step, in the next few weeks, they'll develop a cost estimate. And again, the cost estimate is based on their conditions assessment, what it would take to fully restore and seal just the outside. So once that number comes in, we'll share it. There'll be a full CPC meeting, which will be a public meeting where those numbers will be discussed. The DPW Cemetery Division is beginning the process of expanding available lots at Memorial Cemetery. We're currently selling lots in what is the last available section of the cemetery, and we are selling them rather quickly, so we're going to have to quickly expand so that we can sell additional plots. The DPW is going to begin some minor land clearing, so you may see some trees come down behind the last row that's being sold, and then leveling with the goal of putting in a new paved road in the existing property sometime next year. Right now, we have half of the last lot that you can't access because there's no road yet. So we can sell those plots, but once you sell them, you have to be prepared to bury, unfortunately, at any time. So our DPW and our town clerk's office have spent a lot of hours, and Sean has helped quite a bit, digitizing our records, correcting maps that were really hard to understand and sometimes upside down or backwards. So in the next few months, we're going to have a much better system of tracking and organizing over at the cemetery. The Norris Road Sidewalk project is moving right along. Crews have been busy installing the new accessible sidewalk and doing the associated site work. The majority of the work will be complete this week. A small portion of the project, which is the piece of the sidewalk that extends beyond the school campus toward Lawrence Road, is slightly delayed simply because the fencing for the old middle school is in the way. The contractor can't move it altogether right now because their insurance requires a certain distance. So we've been coordinating with Fontaine, which is the site contractor for the school. If we have to come back out once that fencing is gone, we will, but we're looking at some alternative ways to just temporarily move their fence. But the rest of the project will be complete. I drove down there today, and it's looking really awesome. SNR Corporation has spent the last couple of weeks navigating the state's regulatory process for the abatement and demo of 180 Lakeview Ave. This morning, they submitted their formal work plan to the town, which is currently being reviewed by our abatement designer. If all is good, they will begin to mobilize on site next Monday, and the schedule calls for them to complete their scope of work by September 2nd. So quick turnaround once they're on site. They're leaving the site with a packed down dirt base, so the foundation will be filled in, and it'll be prepped for paving. Our DPW will then pave over it so that it'll be basically just an extension of the existing parking lot. Once they clear out, I expect that a week or so after that, we'll have it fully paved by the DPW. On a procurement front, bids for the 2025 Roads Improvement Project Phase 2 are due on Wednesday at 10 a.m. This work includes the reconstruction portion of our 2025 roads program, which will see work on Pine Street, Oak Street, Lincoln Drive, Bridget Ave, and Elm Street. Bid documents are available on our website through our electronic bidding process. And a reminder that we're currently seeking proposals from qualified designers to conduct the schematic design of a new fire station. Those are also due Wednesday at 10 a.m. And then next week, the Designer Selection Committee will begin the process of reviewing proposals to select the most qualified. And then just a couple of reminders for upcoming events. The Council on Aging will host a Memory Cafe on Wednesday, August 20th from 12 p.m. to 1 at the Center for Active Living. Memory cafes are welcome spaces for individuals with memory loss and their caregivers to socialize, enjoy activities, and connect with others in a supportive environment. You can sign up at the Center for Active Living. September is the American Library Association's Library Card Sign-Up Month. You can celebrate here with the Tyngsborough Public Library by visiting them in person or tinglib.org/card to get your library card today. With a library card, you can do much more than just check out books. You can borrow museum passes, musical instruments, and tools. You can also attend engaging programming like book clubs, lectures, and do arts and crafts. Whether you're a student, job seeker, entrepreneur, or lifelong learner, a library card is a smart way to stay connected with your community. I should start doing radio advertisement. That's kind of what that seems like. And then, of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't note that the annual Party by the Bridge hosted by our rec committee will take place this Saturday, August 23rd in the town center. The program will begin at 11 a.m. and end with fireworks on the river over the river at dark. As always, we're still looking for a handful of volunteers, so if you're able to help, contact our rec department or visit tyngsboroughmay.gov. And as I mentioned earlier, expect that traffic in the town center will be less than pleasant. We posted today on our website and social media the traffic management plan. So Kendall Road will be closed starting at Bryant Lane. If you live on Kendall after Bryant Lane, you will be allowed through, but there'll be a physical hard stop at the fire station. The rightmost lane on the southbound direction of Middlesex Road will be closed, so there'll only be one travel lane going south toward Chelmsford, and Winslow Road is going to close on Thursday at 7 a.m. and remain closed until Monday at 7 a.m. And then the Health and Safety Fair will take place on Saturday, September 27th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Tyngsborough Elementary School.
Thank you. Open up to the board for questions. Mr. Eldridge.
A lot to unpack there, but some items to note, and I certainly hope, yeah, I like the ant who's, we might need to get a...
Well, I was going to use the gavel on the ant. Thought that would be distracting.
This is a public meeting, ants are invited.
Yes. I think, so, huge week with the middle school, right? Folks, I think that Mr. Schneider, who sat on the committee, I think the committee should really be proud of the accomplishments of getting the school done on time and under budget. I don't know that we're going to hear from the residents who told us it was going to be over budget and over budget and over budget. I don't think we're going to hear from those people when it comes in under budget. So kudos to the committee on that, and the many, many individuals who were involved in making that happen. The only other thing that I may save, I'll save it for the select board reports.
Ooh.
I'm going to tease that for you.
Okay, all right. Select person Gilchrist.
Oh, can't wait. Two things. Are we doing anything proactively about mosquitoes for the block party?
Not at this current time. Tyngsborough several years ago at town meeting voted to not participate in the Central Massachusetts Mosquito Spraying Coalition, which has a fancier name than I've declared. What that means is there is no proactive spraying. If a positive case in Tyngsborough is identified, the Board of Health has the statutory authority to do targeted spraying just in that area. But we will ramp up our messaging to advise people. We're going to have some colder nights coming up, so that will help just a little bit. But there is no widespread spraying or anything planned.
Yeah, if we could just remind people with the communications about the block party, especially for the fireworks. I mean, I think that's really the concern. It's like, you know, people during the day, it's hot, people are moving around, it's not going to be a big deal. But I think when you're sitting in a chair in the dark next to the river, that might be a problem for folks. For the staffing section, a full-time communications specialist for the 911 communication center For the folks at home,
I'm sorry.
is
That-
that a dispatcher?
It sure is.
Could you tell us more about what that role looks like and how, like,
Yes, our dispatchers are responsible for a variety of things, primarily answering 911 calls. So when you call 911, you're speaking to a dispatcher. Our 911 call center is at the police station, so they take the 911 call and then they dispatch the resources as appropriate. Because we provide our own medical service, they also do what's called EMD, emergency medical dispatching. So that's what you see on the TV shows. If you call and say so-and-so's having a heart attack, they walk you through CPR, first aid. And then they also, if you ever call the Tyngsborough Police Department and press 0, they answer the general business line after hours. So it is a job that requires quite a bit of multitasking, quite a bit of steel nerves, and the ability to remain calm under pressure.
thank you, sir. I cannot imagine how difficult it would be to be a dispatcher or a full-time communication specialist, as the case may be. Thank you, Mr. Chair, that's it.
Welcome. Select Person Cohen.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Selectperson Schneider, our town manager, really everybody on the building committee for the middle school. Everything I've heard has come out fantastic. Of course, the kids and the parents that are going into middle school in a week or so are very excited. And again, you know, it is under budget, and we are paying $1 million out of for the middle school out of our operational budget every year for 30 years, $30 million to reduce the tax impact on the residents. And thanks to the building committee, making sure we were under budget was another goal that we had to further reduce the tax impact on the residents. So I'm very excited about that. Can't wait to go see it.
Thank you. Select Person Coughlin.
Yeah, I have a question on the Winslow School. So, how much money has been, and I just don't know, because I just haven't been around for that long, but how much money has gone into the Winslow School project to date?
Yep. I will get that number to the board. I'll include it in my Friday update, and then we'll make that publicly available with the report as well. I don't want to, we have to go back so many years that there's some years that I wasn't here for, so I will get you the number. It will be a mix of physical updates to the building. The abatement project was, I think, $300,000 or so. That was the most recent kind of large-scale thing that happened. There's been several, we did a small roof repairs in 2017, so it isn't a small number, but I'll get the board a firm number for my Friday report, and we'll make that number available on the town website as well.
Great, thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. And then I just want to echo what the other board members here have said about the middle school. I encourage everyone to come out to that open house if you're at all available. You're going to see a school that is a state-of-the-art building that has all the tools that the school administration now needs to deliver a superior education to our children. And as much as we're under budget, the money that we expended for that school also included paving the entire parking lot over and for the entire campus. So the fact that we were able to achieve that and still remain under budget is quite an achievement. But please come out to the open house. I think you'll be very impressed with what we've done. Thank you.
And the only thing there, Mr. Chair, I forgot to thank the residents who,
of course, voted for it overwhelmingly and for helping to pay for, it's not a trivial amount. We know that some folks have made some great sacrifices in paying for that and voting for it. So I think I was remiss in not mentioning them the first time through.
Likewise.
Thank you. Moving on to new business. Review and approve the Regional Veterans District with Drake-It.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As this board is aware, Tyngsborough has happily provided interim veteran service officer services to our neighbors in Drake-It multiple times in the last 5 years. In fact, since I took over as town manager in September of 2023, we've entered into at least 4 different IMAs for this interim coverage, some lasting as short as a month, some as long as 6 or 7 months. This typically happens when Drake-It has a transition in their VSO position, and during the period of time where they are looking to fill the vacancy, we've provided those services. During each of these times, Tyngsborough veterans continue to get the same level of service they've come to expect, and folks in Dracut have shared their happiness with the service as well. A few months ago, we began talking to Dracut about potentially establishing a veteran services district, which is actually a very common and more frequently occurring thing in Massachusetts, which would help us, one, consolidate our resources, but also develop some continuity for both communities, for Dracut and then for Tyngsborough as well. If approved by the state, we would have a full-time VSO, as we do today, and a full-time administrative assistant. Currently, we have a full-time VSO and we have administrative support here in Tyngsborough about 12 hours a week. It is a full-time employee that provides that support, but for the other 23 hours, she works in the town clerk's office. The VSO and the full-time admin would coordinate their hours so that there's coverage in both communities and that we could continue to deliver the same level of service. The towns of Dracut and Tyngsborough would evenly split the cost of running the district. That includes everything that is required to run the district. For us, that means that the financial impact would be budget neutral, if not slightly budget positive, because we're currently paying for a full-time employee and a part-time administrative assistant. Even with the change to a full-time administrative assistant, we'd now be splitting the cost of both evenly. While Dracut will get the biggest upfront benefit, make no mistake about that, because they've had a hard time hiring and retaining a VSO, the long-term benefit to Tyngsborough is that we'll have continuity and access to more resources by pooling our efforts. Practically speaking, residents of Tyngsborough will see no change. The Dracut Selectboard voted unanimously last week to approve applying to form a district, and I'm asking the same tonight. I've had lengthy meetings with Dracut's town manager, Kate Hodges, as well as our VSO, Chris Derry, of course. He not only supports this move, he was actually instrumental in bringing the state to the table to talk about what you can or can't do. You know, I got a couple questions from a resident before this meeting, so I do just want to make sure that I get that on the record as well. There were questions about, you know, who maintains the costs of office space and equipment. Fortunately, Tyngsborough and Dracut already currently have offices. Dracut has an office at their Council on Aging. We have an office here. So there's no upfront cost to forming the district. Essentially, we would just be utilizing the same systems. The way that the state runs its veteran benefits, it's all done through a cloud-based software that every VSO has access to. So as Chris has currently performed the services for Dracut, most of the time, except for set office hours in Dracut, he's actually processing claims from the office here in Tyngsborough. So there's a little bit of a redundancy. There's not necessarily the need to have two subscriptions, for instance, because Chris can do it from any location. I did mention that in all transparency, Dracut gets the biggest upfront benefit, but what I would argue is an additional advantage to Tyngsborough, because we only have one full-time employee and one 12-hour-a-week employee in that office. There are inevitably times where one is on vacation and it doesn't line up with the hours that the admin is scheduled to be over there, and so there are times where the veterans office isn't accessible because, as is the case with many of our departments, there's just limited staffing. This would ensure that there's always one full-time employee available. And again, whether it's by phone or by email, we are very fortunate in Tyngsborough. We have a very smooth sailing VSO operation. The other thing that I would note is that the way that these benefits work in Massachusetts is that while financially Tyngsborough is only responsible for residents of Tyngsborough, there isn't, you could live in Carlisle and because you know Chris, come to Tyngsborough and fill out the application. Because the state reimburses us for our expenses, the 151 claims, we don't currently have the ability or the desire to turn away people who live outside of Tyngsborough. So, you know, I could sit here and say Tyngsborough has X number of cases, Dracut has X number, but the reality is the caseloads fluctuate because it's based on who a veteran feels comfortable dealing with. Tyngsborough is fortunate. Chris is a VA accredited claims officer, so most towns only offer 151 claims. Those are your standard benefits that we budget for, but the state reimburses most of it. VA claims are much more expansive, and so many communities don't offer that. Chris is accredited, and Chris is able to provide that, which also draws people from some of our neighboring communities. So I guess the bottom line is, obviously, when we look at providing regional services, we want to make sure that Tyngsborough doesn't fall behind, and I'm confident based on Chris's involvement in this process from the beginning and our experience doing this for Dracut, as I said several times, just since 2023, that won't happen. Now, what are the next steps? If the board votes tonight to approve entering into this regional services agreement, we'll spend the next couple of months working with the state's Office of Veteran Affairs to come up with a district agreement, which ultimately will need to come back to this board for signature. That's where we'll outline things like, where is the satellite office? We've already decided that would be Drake-it. What are the hours of the admin? What are the hours for it? So there will be an opportunity for feedback on the practical operation, but we can't advance to the negotiating an agreement with the state piece until the boards in both towns share their support for it.
Thank you. I'll open up to the board for questions. Selectperson Eldridge.
So just to confirm, basically what we're talking about is same level of services, except maybe a little bit better for Tyngsborough. Drake gets the benefit of having Chris's experience and something that's more permanent, if you will, and that they don't have to keep trying to hire somebody and then, having the uncertainty, so they get that certainty. No extra cost for us, same level of services. Drake-it, no extra cost, because they would have had that role, it's probably cheaper for them in the long run. But the net on it is, regardless, the veterans are gonna end up with as good a services, if not better, because now we're gonna provide that same level of service across both towns that our residents, our veterans are used to. So, am I missing anything there?
No, the only thing I would add, and I should have said this, is that the district agreement is always revocable by one or both towns. So if we were 3 years in and we realized, okay, this really isn't benefiting us, the town is not legally bound to stay in it. There's a notice period, obviously, just for continuity, but the town could leave the agreement. That doesn't really happen. We're probably one of the last few, with the exception of the city of Lowell, of course, which is much larger, that aren't part of a regional. Some of the regional districts are as big as 7 communities. It's the Minuteman Regional Veteran Services Group. That's like your Lexingtons, Bedford. I think Arlington is part of it. There's 5 or 6 in that one group.
No other questions. My major concern is that the veterans are gonna get the services that they've come to expect, and then some. And my concerns have been answered relative to that.
Thank you. Selectperson Gilfus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hadn't considered this until you just mentioned it. If a third community wanted to join us, I presume that both our board and Drake-it's would have to approve that in addition to the third community? Like, this would sort of go for a review?
Correct, and the staffing requirements would change. The state offers a model of how many accredited VSOs you need and administrative staff you need per population of the district. So we're right at the cusp with Drake-it and Tyngsborough's population of needing the 1-in-1. If a third community, unless it was maybe Dunstable, which is already part of a regional, so they wouldn't join us, we would not only have to have the consent of both existing communities, but we would also need to go back to the state, add a third employee, and then renegotiate the funding scheme.
That makes a lot of sense. And I'm just curious, do you have a sense of the volume of our claims that go through our VSO?
Yeah, they are not growing. I think the complexity of cases has changed. And again, a lot of that is because we go above just offering the 151 claims. Tyngsborough could just stop and say, look, the only thing that we're doing out of our office, which is why many communities bigger than us have a veterans agent that is less hours than what we have. We have a full-time veterans agent. Many communities only have a part-time. I worked in Milton for 6 minutes before I came back here. They're in a regional with another town next door, and they have a 15-hour-a-week VSO servicing both. But what we've done in Tyngsborough, and I think what we take pride in, is that we don't stop at the 151. Our Veterans Office helps with the VA claims. It helps with VA appeals. Believe it or not, even the federal government has sometimes arduous processes. So Chris spends a lot of time helping navigate, maybe the wrong form was submitted, so a veteran was denied. That's not really the type of service that you typically get in other communities. So that's how we've justified that full-time position here. The 151 claims fluctuate. It's based on your eligibility. If you worked more in 1 year, then you don't get as much. If you're the surviving spouse, then you get a little bit less. So it's hard to track, but the number has remained relatively flat.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Selectperson Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just want to make sure we answered the resident who sent us the questions, and I have a couple other, I'm not sure if I heard it or not from Colin, so, but I did want to address them. So Drake-It, has about the same, if not fewer, cases than we do. So even though they're a bigger community, that's been the case for many years. So that's why we're splitting the cost between Drake-It and Tyngsborough. And there's one other thing. Oh, and there's, I'm not sure if Colin mentioned this, and there's no startup costs. Since we've been swapping VSO, multiple times, and as a cloud-based system, Chris knows exactly how to do it. He's worked in Drake-It for, I think 4 or 5 different times. And during that time, we never received a single complaint. I verified that with our town manager. So again, the veterans get the same service that they contact the same person. Really, nothing changes from the veterans aspect. They don't have to think that there's a single change. The change is really in the background that they don't have to be concerned about. That's all.
Thank you. Select Person Coughlin.
Yeah, it sounds like the regional model is a good approach. Is there any downside in terms of, if there's like more veterans, say, in Drake-It than in Tyngsborough?
I think if we had a documented understanding that Drake-It had this dramatic number of claims, then there may be a potential downside. That is certainly not the case. In fact, I think that prior to us providing the services in Drake-It, they also had only a part-time VSO, and that seemed to be working fine. No system is perfect, but I feel very comfortable saying that we will be able to continue to deliver the same level of services we deliver today by doing the regional, and add that additional staff time by getting a full-time administrative professional when Chris is on vacation or traveling or doing office hours in Drake-It. There will still be one person that can communicate with veterans, because a lot of times it's a veteran checking in on the status of their application, because in order to get to it, you've got to go through 1 million pages on the state's website or the federal government's website. And so just having a live voice at the other end that can say, oh, it was just approved here, it's now got this one last step. And I think that's the immediate benefit to Tyngsborough.
Great, thank you.
Of course, Chair, can I have one more thing to
Yes,
that?
please.
And, since I've been here for the 9 years, the number of veterans requesting services has gone down. We're one avenue for the services for the veterans. There's many other avenues also. So it has gone down consistently. So there was no expectation that we're all of a sudden going to see a big increase in number of veterans. I mean, of course, they're more than welcome, but there's a very distinct requirement for them to come, on the state level.
Okay. And Colin, I just have a question. You'd mentioned about the state now having to enter into an agreement between the two towns to memorialize this. Is that more or less a template that is there a lot of room to negotiate things, or is there even ever a need to negotiate much beyond what the state has for a template?
My understanding in talking to the Veteran Affairs folks is that the reason the state kind of provides these high-level rules about districting is because beginning in 2008, when there was the financial crisis, a lot of communities said, okay, well, we'll just cut what they saw as the low-hanging fruit. We're not required to do it, so we will just reduce the number of hours that we have available. And so they saw a lot of, I'll call it abuse. I'm not naming any names. So what they want to do is just make sure that you're not doing this simply to lower your obligation to veterans, and to make sure that veterans in both communities still get the same level of service. So there is a lot of room for negotiating things like, where is the primary office? We've already decided that'll be Tyngsborough. Where's the satellite office? That's Drake-It. We've already decided that because we'll have 2 full-time employees, they don't need to physically be in the same office. So you do have a little bit of flexibility when it comes to that, but as it relates to the level, the number of employees, you have no flexibility. And again, that's because the state is trying to prevent people from, willy-nilly reducing hours simply to save money.
Sure. Thank you. I have no further questions. Select Person Eldridge.
Mr. Chair, I move that the Select Board approve a regional Veterans Service District with Drake-It.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That carries 500. Thank you. Item 8B, review and approve updates to Ironwood Park rules and regulations.
We're gonna actually table that one, Mr. Chair.
That is fine. We will do that at a future meeting.
Then I will take item 8C if you'd like.
8C, please, discuss the fall town meeting.
Excellent. So as this board knows, the town's bylaw calls out specific dates for fall and spring town meeting. Accordingly, the board would typically host a fall town meeting on Tuesday, October 21st. As a part of the board's fiscal year 26 schedule, I'd typically be recommending that the board open the warrant at your meeting today and that we'd review it over the next few meetings and ask you to post the warrant at your meeting on October 6th. As of today, however, I have no time-sensitive warrant articles or really even any articles that are currently in a ready form for town meeting. I've reviewed this with every department, including schools, and we all agree. There are a few items that I expect will be ready for a spring town meeting. One is a conversation about accessory dwelling units. That's a bylaw amendment. I'm not going to read my whole summary here, but the board may remember that in last year's budget, the governor and the legislature included language that eliminated the ability for a municipality to restrict the construction of ADUs equal to or less than 900 square feet. Essentially, we used to require, we call them temporary independent living quarters. It could be up to 1,200 square feet under our zoning bylaw, but it required a special permit by the planning board. Under the law, you no longer can require it so long as it meets certain things, including the size being 900 square feet or less. We don't technically need to do anything immediate because the law always trumps your bylaw. So since the law passed, we've already seen a handful of building permits be issued for ADUs. There's nothing we can do to stop them. We should update our bylaw, and the planning board had a preliminary conversation about this at their last meeting, so that our bylaw is consistent with state law. What will likely happen is if the next time we do a zoning amendment, we'll submit the zoning bylaw to the Attorney General's office, and she'll send back some notes saying that this section of your bylaw isn't compliant. Although it's not time sensitive, we would probably want to address that potentially at spring, and there are some considerations the planning board can make. For instance, they can choose to just get rid of the section on temporary independent living quarters altogether and say, look, all you get is the state minimum, that's the 900 square feet. They could say, you can do the 900 square feet that you're allowed by law without a special permit, but if you want something bigger, we'll keep the provision where you can come to the planning board for a special permit for 1,200 square feet. So there's a lot that they have to consider. They demonstrated or expressed skepticism about how to move forward at their last meeting. So even if we had an October town meeting, I don't suspect that we'd have a bylaw ready for review there. And I've shared my concerns about this with this board, as well as with EOHLC, which is a state agency that's implementing this. The biggest concern about ADUs is that there's no way to require affordability for an ADU. So in a community like Tyngsborough, which has done very well to maintain its SHI above the 10% threshold, which gives us a lot of control over unfriendly, I'll call them 40Bs, well, we're running out of places to build affordable developments, but if every person can build an ADU, the state law counts that on your housing inventory, so it is kind of falsely diluting our SHI. And you may remember Mr. Poland from the Zoning Board of Appeals was before you several. So we've talked to council about it. We haven't found another community that was successful in, we haven't found any community that's challenging the law, but we haven't found any that have found a way to overcome that concern. It's particularly challenging for communities like Tyngsborough because we simply don't have the, if somebody builds 15 ADUs in the next 2 years, we don't have a parcel big enough to make up for that by building 15 units that would count toward our SHI. So I'll hop off my soapbox, but basically that's one bylaw we'll have to consider at some point, but that's not really even ready for an October town meeting. The Conservation Commission is exploring whether or not it makes sense to update our stormwater bylaw. When we first adopted the stormwater bylaw, we placed the control for approving stormwater plans with the Conservation Commission. However, every special permit or site plan review issued by the planning board also requires the planning board to approve the stormwater. So instead of people going to the Conservation Commission, getting one approval, going back to the planning board, getting a second approval, they're exploring submitting an amendment to the bylaw that would put the control solely with the planning board. It makes sense because the planning board has site plan review, but again, that bylaw is certainly not time sensitive by any means. In talking to the library, we'd like to look at the potential of establishing a revolving fund for their new newsletter, The Bridge. We're not at that point yet, but as they expand it, one of the things they'd like to do is look at the advertising model, which is permissible, but we would need to establish a revolving fund so that every dollar they collect in advertising revenue goes back into a fund reserved for the bridge. Right now, when a department collects revenue, if they don't have a revolving fund, it just falls back to the general fund, and so they kind of miss the opportunity to use that money for printing out, which is where they'd ultimately like to go. And then the only other one, I'll give a little bit of kudos to the state here, is the adoption of a local option statute, Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 12D. This was included in this year's budget and allows the select board, or allows town meeting, to adopt a statute that would allow a wine and malt on-premise operator to turn their license in for an all-alcoholic beverages license, even if there are none currently available. So as you all will remember, we wanted 3 new liquor licenses, and we had to fight tooth and nail to get it from the legislature, even though the deciding votes on that had probably never even been to Tyngsborough. Anywho's, this puts the control back in the municipality. So if you feel, for instance, if Big Al's decided they were doing really well and they wanted an all-alcohol license, instead of us having to file a home rule petition and beg the state for permission to do what this board thinks is right for Tyngsborough, this statute, if adopted by town meeting, lets you, or whoever sits in your seats, make that decision. So that is definitely one that we'll want to do, but again, it's not super time sensitive. Longer term, I expect that we'll have cost estimates for a new fire station by May. I think that we have more conversations about whether or not this town meeting would be the appropriate time to discuss a potential debt exclusion vote to fund a new fire station, but that's one of the bigger items that town meeting will need to consider at some point. So all of that said, based on the information available today, I'd recommend that we not hold a fall town meeting. Technically, at any time, somebody can submit a citizen's petition with 100 signatures for a special town meeting, and the board would be forced to call one. But absent that, we would simply be having a meeting to have a meeting. Could I come up with 1 or 2 articles? Maybe. But would it be worth it? I would think probably not.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the board? Select person
Mr. Chair,
Eldridge.
yes. I know you know the answer to this because I already asked you earlier today. What does hosting a town meeting cost us?
Approximately $7,500.
So
That's the production company, the media associates, and police detail that we would hire. The schools we don't typically pay the schools for the custodians, but we could argue that they're bearing some of that cost.
and as much as I believe in town meeting form of government, and I think it's critical for people to show up and participate, we've had a lot of town meetings recently with a lot of content and a lot of articles. If we don't have anything that warrants it, I don't think it justifies, notwithstanding the $7,500 in cost, there's a lot of effort to put all those things together. And frankly, when you get 80 people to show up for some of those things, it is a little disheartening. So, unless we have something that requires us to have business during that period of time, I think I hate to say it, but it's a waste of money.
Yeah.
And I think that we would be wise focusing our energies and getting ready for spring town meeting versus, or annual town meeting versus having something in the fall with no content.
Thank you. Select person Gilfus.
Mr. Chair, could you remind me, Colin, we're obligated to have the annual town meeting in May, but fall is a special town meeting that's optional, right?
Correct. You're not obligated to have a special town meeting. We added language to the bylaw that says when a special town meeting would occur, but certainly you're not required to. You are required to have a May annual town meeting or whatever month your bylaw dictates, because you have to set the operating budget.
Great. Yeah, I think this is pretty straightforward. I don't want to drag residents out for what is ultimately no reason. I am really glad that you asked the question about cost. I also will be out of the country then, so I will not be in attendance either way.
All the more reason.
So I'm almost inclined to abstain, but I don't think that we need this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Select person Cohen.
I take the town manager's recommendation.
Excellent choice. Select person Coughlin.
I also take the town managers.
Well, and I have no further questions, so I will ask Mr. Eldridge to make a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that the Select Board not hold a fall town meeting this year.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That carries 500. Thank you.
Colin, could you remind folks what the deadline for citizens petition is, just in case?
Technically, there is no deadline because you're not closing the warrant. Under our bylaw and state law, at any time, even if it was in December or January, if 100 citizens sign a petition to hold a town meeting, you'd be required to have one. So we generally give a deadline for the May annual town meeting because we're expecting it, and so we would have council weigh in. Whereas if somebody was to get 100 signatures, the board is just required to, within a certain amount of time, I think it's 90 days, set the town meeting. So they'd kind of be giving themselves the deadline. In this case, it's just whenever, if somebody gets 100 signatures.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. 8D, designate representatives to negotiate the town manager's contract.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Believe it or not, the contract that I have with the board to serve as town manager is now in its final year, expiring at the end of this fiscal year. As the position of town manager falls under the jurisdiction of the Select Board, ultimately the Select Board will need to vote to ratify any agreement. Typically, the board would designate 1 or 2 members to negotiate with the town manager with the understanding that the final agreement has to be brought back to the board for final approval. Since 2 members do not constitute a quorum, these negotiations would happen outside of your normal meeting schedule, and the final version would be approved first in executive session and then ratified in a public meeting as required by law. As I've indicated to the board previously, my goal is that all outstanding labor agreements will be settled by November so that we have clarity around the budget and planning well in advance of January. There are 4 non-union labor agreements expiring this year, with 1 being mine.
Thank you. Questions? Comments? So, Person Eldridge.
So I was part of the last negotiation with Colin. I am willing to participate again, or I'm willing to defer if somebody else would like to jump in.
Mr. Chair, I'll state the same. I was also on the negotiating committee, and I will defer. No comment.
Okay. Person Gilfus.
I would love to volunteer to be on this, as I have
This
not
is a-
negotiated a contract for Tyngsborough before, and I would like the opportunity to do so.
This is one popular idea. Person Coughlin.
As much as I would love to.
Maybe next year.
Yeah, maybe next year.
Wise choice.
Yes.
I have no interest.
So I will be with one of these guys.
So I think we need to do arm wrestling.
No, I'd be more than happy to defer to Mr. Cohane if he would like to.
I would love to do it.
That'd be great.
I've kind of got a little inkling for Colin here. I want to keep him around as long as we can, so, you know,
That would be
I'd love to continue with the discussion. You know, we went through, you know, quite a bit of detail, what it takes, town managers, what they make in the region here, so we can bring that forward and work with Select Person Gilfus.
And I have complete confidence that you guys will do a bang-up job.
And I agree, and I think the fact, your experience and you bring different ideas to the table sometimes, a different perspective, I think that is a great combination. So,
Mr.
could we get a
Chair,
motion?
I move that the Select Board appoint members Jackie Gilfus and Ron Cohane to negotiate a new contract with the town manager.
Am I allowed to second this?
Yes.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? That carries 500. Thank you both. And old business.
Goals.
Review, approve the FY '26 Select Board and Administration goals.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Included in the packet is a combined version of the feedback that I got from all of the board members, organized in the format that I shared. So it starts with values, which I would, you know, the way I've seen this is these are the values that the board wants me, our leadership team, and department heads, and obviously you as well, to consider when making policy decisions. So rather than these being goals, this is kind of what I see as your directive to guide how we operate. So The feedback that I got from the board, if we start with this section, is collaboration. I think that's been something that we've talked about quite a bit. Fiscal responsibility, communication, safety, so safe community, and efficiency. And I think as you read the submissions from everybody, certainly those themes kind of ring loud in all that was submitted. I put descriptions here. Really, the description, I think it's self-explanatory, but I put that there so that when we shared this with department heads earlier today, they had a better understanding and could shape their conversations around it.
Thank you. Does any,
Can you speak to how the conversation with the department heads went when you shared the values at least?
I think they very much liked it. I think communication is something that I have annoyingly made a priority. The same thing with efficiency, collaboration. You know, I joked today that we're fiscally responsible kind of by necessity because we know we have limited resources. But I think that what we've talked about today was going a step beyond okay, just realizing these are our finite resources. Moving beyond that to say, but with the finite resources, how can we do more or kind of reallocate the way that our funding is placed to hit our key areas? You know, one of the things that I think our budget planning scenarios, which will start on the 8th, we'll talk about, is understanding that we can't necessarily increase the available funding to spend. Obviously, the community changes over time, and so are we doing something in one area that we can scale back to increase in another area? That's not really a conversation that any of our budgeting has had before. Generally, and we did this the most recent year as well, we know what our known costs are, we know what the revenue is, and we just try to make them match so that we live within our means. What I'm hoping we get out of our 5-year budget forecasting and kind of scenario-based planning is how can we tweak, even if it's just the existing revenue, so that our services are meeting the current need. And I don't want to go into too many specifics right now because I don't want to make it look like I'm favoring a particular department, but I think that we certainly have to ask ourselves questions. Has the need for staffing, say, in fire changed? Has the need for staffing in DPW changed as we've added open space parcels that they're maintaining, new infrastructure? So that's kind of the tone we're taking on the fiscal responsibility because, you know, it's not just as simple as saying, well, we're fiscally responsible because we haven't talked about an override or because we're living within our means. I think it's about much more than that.
Thank you.
other questions, comments?
The only thing that's not here, but could be in kind of the fiscal responsibility and efficiency is around coming up with new and better ways to tackle the same problems, right? Leveraging technology. I know like the town clerk has been trying to do things, put things online, right? And we've been doing some of that, but I think just looking at different ways, I think it's probably good messaging for particularly, you know, the staff. Yeah, the fly is
driving me
us.
through a wall.
For staff is that, you know, we want them to not just be doing the same old thing day in and day out. They need to grow. They need to develop. And some of that is coming up with different ways of thinking around attacking, you know, the problems that we face. So it could be something that's just subtle. I don't know that we have to necessarily call it out as a separate item, but we want people that have ideas and the, you know, why do we do it this way? The answer shouldn't just be because that's the way we've always done it. It should be that there's a particular reason, and that may help attract and retain talented folks. But it also, I think it's good for the residents because, you know, they're sitting there saying, you know, what we did 30 years ago to attack this particular problem might not be the right way to go. And so, you know, I think it should just be kind of inherent in there to have that type of innovative, inquisitive mind. You know, efficiency almost feels like paper pushing and too much of that and just saying, you know, I'm trying to squeeze every little bit out of this. So that's the only thing I would say is we might want to consider subtly including that or even overtly including something.
Well, you and another member are completely in sync because there's a longer term goal which I found interesting and I think a lot of the staff are excited about. Generally speaking, to identify 2 processes across town government that can be reviewed and modified with a focus on creating efficiencies and improving the resident experience. I think we can fit some of that into there as well.
Yep. I like it better in the tangible side anyway, I think, than having the, you know,
We'll put it in a
the
pie
values
chart.
are good, but I say, yeah, put it in a pie chart. That's the only thing on the values.
Thank you. Select person Gilchrist, you already made some comments, but do you have any other further questions or comments about the goals?
Yeah, I just think it's it's funny that the last thing that you said was that like values are good, but you like it tangible. Whereas I was thinking the opposite, which is I'm so glad that you included values this year because I don't remember that being last year. And I think that this is a great way to have guiding principles and just a way for department heads to be thinking in shared language, in shared goals. So I love this. And I think that you're right. I was going to say maybe it is worth putting something about innovation in the values, innovation, creativity, something like that. But I agree. Even if it is just adding it to the language of that particular goal about the 2 efficiencies, I think either works.
I can certainly add innovation or innovative. Yeah, I can add innovation to values if the board thinks that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Select person Cohen.
Yeah, I also like the values. I think it was Select Person Coughlin that actually made the recommendation instead of putting the same things over and over again every year. We kind of state our values of what we really believe, and I think that was a great idea. It shows why new people have a lot of good new ideas. So I really like that, and I think that actually adds a lot to the goal setting. The one goal that I'll just state right now, maybe we could look at this and maybe put it another way, but having lived through the town charter when I first started and saw how exactly that went down, the reasons why people didn't want a charter, you'd have to convince me to actually go and do another charter. I have heard people say, well, we could just, solidify the things that we've already done, like town manager and DPW, but the state's already approved that. Unless you're gonna change the act, you're not really accomplishing anything by putting that particular in a charter. There was a lot of discussion, a lot of disagreement. Everybody thought it was too much to handle. And the recommendation of the residents was if you just do one at a time, and that's what we did. We took the major recommendations in the charter that the charter committee put down. Actually, the charter committee, it was a 3-year process, by the way, just so everybody knows. It was a very long process. And so what we did is we took one at a time, the town manager, the DPW Act. Instead of the Board of Selectmen, it was a select board, and we did one or two other ones also. So, willing to have the discussion, but, I'm not really sure that a charter is the best way to go. I know it's a goal here, maybe have the discussion of a charter governing document. And as for a governing document, I think everybody wants to have it all in one place. But we always hit these exceptions of things that happen, and then you gotta go to the state laws. If you go to the state laws, I don't even know how many volumes of laws there are, but it's an awful lot. And there always seems to be an exception, and everybody wants to have it in one place, but you always have to go to another level to get those. So more than willing to have the conversation. Wouldn't mind if we would rephrase that we should look at a charter or a governing document. The goal right now is to develop one, and I don't know if people will have to convince me, let's put it that way.
Thank you. Select person Coughlin.
Yeah, so the charter was actually one of my goals. And I just thought that it was something that was necessary in a way, but I don't have the experience that you do in terms of what is needed. I think that a charter makes us more independent and that we actually sort of drive our own outcome in the town and less reliant on the state. But love to have that conversation with you about the experiences Because when I did, it sounds great, like, oh, we need a charter, because, like, the town of Tyngsborough needs it, and we should, it's what we should do. When you look into it from the state perspective, there are a lot of hoops that need to be jumped through. And so, if there's something that, instead of a charter or something else, like, maybe that would be appropriate, so.
Good, thank you. Yeah, no, I think to your point, Ron, it's, maybe we keep it on here, but we just do a little bit of wordsmithing to,
If I could, one of the things, and I don't know how you want to advance this conversation, and maybe you've all read it and you're all fine. One of the things that I intended to do was, based on your feedback tonight, if we agree that these goals are what we want to work toward, we would spend the next 3 weeks before your next meeting developing more of the milestones and kind of how we propose getting to those points. So I don't know if you want me to go section by section, if you want to just have people call out items. I'm happy to do with whatever, but to the point about clarifying how we get to something similar to the town charter, or organizing as much as we can into one place so people have one place to look for, and maybe that's just how we organize the website. I envision that we would do some of that behind the scenes work, showing you how we would get to these different places. But happy to advance this conversation however the board desires.
Mr. Chair, if I might, I only made my comments up to the values. Specific to the goals, I do have some questions, but relative to the charter, it could be that the term charter, it has a stigma associated with
Yeah,
it,
I was
and we
thinking
might
the same
want to reconsider that. I would almost equate it to what we did with our zoning bylaws. It sounds like, and from what I've seen, our town bylaws are suffering the exact same thing that our zoning bylaws had suffered. We've added things over the years, we've done it piecemeal, and we've got some things that may be in conflict with state law, so it's not enforceable. And we may have things where we're using bad terms, we mix and match terms to make it very confusing for people. And that we might want to look at reorganizing our bylaws such that they're easier. The only thing I will say is that there's a lot of warrant articles that come with that, and then you got to go to the state in order to make that. There was a lot of effort just to do our zoning bylaws. So we're going to have to make sure that the value is there. And my guess is that NIMCOG or some others have some grants to help us with that, because, I think every town struggles with this. It's this concept of a decorator crab, where he goes along the floor and just attaches things to himself, and that's our bylaws. So maybe that's a cleanup. I think we should discuss it and determine whether it's got the value, because I don't know. I know it can be confusing. I know it can be confusing for us, and we spend a lot of time on it. And I worry, you get the residents that come here and then go to town meeting and they get confused. And anything that we can do to make it easier for them to understand how the town is governed and what we have for those types of rules, I think there's value there. How to do that, I don't know. But I think that's a problem, and that was all I was going to say about that particular one. I do have some other things.
On that front, certainly one of the grants that comes to mind that is used quite commonly. In fact, many communities, as we speak today, are going through this. The state offers the best community compact best practices grant. That's the same grant that we've used for similar type initiatives. 2 years ago, we used it for the Collins Center study, which looked at our wages and job descriptions. And so that would certainly fund bringing on a consultant to help, to your point, look at the bylaws, which certainly haven't been changed in many, many years, and compile it as best as we can with some of the home rule petitions and so on that we've done. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we change things. It could just mean that they're going to point out areas where our general bylaws are inconsistent with state law, which there's probably a handful of now, and kind of clean things up. It would then be on this board and ultimately town meeting if we thought that there were changes that needed to be made once we kind of cleaned everything up and got it to a place that was at least easy enough for people to follow, if that makes sense.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
now that I've gone through these goals again in my head here, I don't see anything about the fire station. Should that be a goal?
Yes, so I kind of saw that being included under the develop long-term maintenance plans for all town buildings, including identifying future use and growth needs. But I could certainly put a short-term goal to complete, would it be complete the schematic design and develop a
And bring it to town
plan?
meeting?
Do you want the goal to be directly bring it to town meeting?
Yes.
I think if we don't bring it to town meeting for a full plan or something within the next 2 years, I think that we failed. I think that the schematic design that we're gonna look to have
Yeah.
in spring, and then it's not like we can I don't think we can do a schematic design now with the intent that 5 years down the road, we're gonna try to fund it. I think it's our job to sit there and say, this was a critical need for the infrastructure of the town and the safety of residents, and certainly for the firefighters, that we need to go through, and I would think that this spring we go through the schematic design, and then we spend a year to figure out how we're gonna make it a reality, and where it's physically gonna go, and that we go to the townspeople and said, this is what you said you wanted, and so let's go through and fund that.
And Mr. Chair, the residents voted for the schematic
Yeah.
design.
Yeah.
They voted for the
Yeah, so-
schematic design to bring it forward, to me anyway, to bring it to town meeting and let the residents decide if that's what they really want.
So then just to confirm, so the schematic design is in the works, so should this be a short-range goal to use the schematic design and cost estimate to develop a awareness campaign and determine the approach? Because I guess we may get to a point where we don't think that we had enough time to do the public, because we all know with the debt exclusion vote, and, make no mistake, the way we fund a new fire station is entirely through a debt exclusion vote in Tyngsborough. We do want to make sure, to the points I think you've all made, that we have enough of a run-up to build the awareness campaign,
Right.
explain to people the impact. So maybe the short-range goal is to, using the schematic design and cost estimate, develop a public outreach campaign with a target of having town meeting vote on it in the next 2 town meetings.
I would say no later than the annual town meeting in 2027. Right? So we got the
Yes,
2026
that's
one,
yeah.
no later than that.
Right.
I think that should be our goal, and
I-
we need to
No later
make
than-
sure, whatever we gotta do to make it clear.
So, Mr. Chair, no later than, but I really think the goal should be 2026. But we need to have a detailed plan, like Colin was saying. We need the detailed plan to at least have the goal of doing 26. Maybe we get there, maybe we don't, but I think the goal is 2026 with a stretch goal of 2027.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
add that to the short-term goal.
I'm just questioning, logistically how you write that, because if we're talking up to 2026, it's more of a long-term goal. In your mind, the short-term goal section, how much time does that cover?
A year.
Just the
This fiscal year.
Fiscal year.
Which, if the goal is 2026 spring, that is your next annual town meeting, so I would consider that
That's our next
a
town
short,
meeting.
yeah.
That's our next town meeting.
That's your next town reading, unless somebody files a citizen's petition with 100 signatures. I don't want to eliminate the possibilities,
Yeah.
but so that I would consider that a short-range goal.
Okay, so the short-term goal would be to build the awareness campaign and be ready to present to town meeting
As early as May 2026.
about the plans.
The only thing that would go to town meeting is the vote to authorize the debt exclusion.
Yeah, you
So
gotta
at
come
this
up
You
with
would be
point-
ready
costs.
to do that by May?
We'd have the cost, and we'd be asking town meeting and then a ballot to vote
Right,
the full cost to finish the design, because we're just doing the schematic design, so it would be the full design development, the bid docs, construction administration phase, and the actual construction.
Which is
Is
why
that
I said you might be
feasible between
2027.
now and April?
Right.
It Practically speaking, we will absolutely, before you have to close the warrant, have a cost estimate for both.
Okay.
What this board will have to make a game time decision on is if you feel like, based on the way that, because we haven't even selected the firm yet, but if, based on what the number comes in as, and based on feedback, if you think that the May 2026 town meeting is the appropriate time for it, because the caution you've all seen, you've all heard it, is if we go before we're ready and it fails, either the ballot vote or a town meeting, the cards are already stacked tremendously against you if you try to do it again the subsequent year. So it's a little bit of a, I think overwhelmingly, I feel that there is, and this board would have a better feeling, support conceptually to build a new fire station. I think people know it's necessary. I think we're going to have to do a lot of hard work to show people the value in it, because at the end of the day, most people don't have the financial ability to say, well, I know that it's the right thing to do. They've got to vote based on their current financial circumstances. And so if the board feels like that's not the appropriate time, my recommendation would be to defer so that you don't have a failed vote and then you're starting from behind the game.
My thought is just that. We might have the total cost estimates by April, but will we have the time to do the sort of PR campaign to sell it, right? Because as important as knowing the cost, it's getting that sales pitch out to people, to build that awareness, to build, the knowledge, to have people do visits of the existing, fire department, everything that's involved in that. I think we'd be rushing to try to get that by the May town meeting.
For all transparency's sake, the RFQ that we have issued requires that the schematic design and the cost estimates be completed by December.
Yep.
So, I'll do whatever the board's will is I can make happen, assuming that May is the goal. We could begin, because there's two parts to this. There's one, getting folks to understand the need for a new building.
Right.
And that work can commence before you have a dollar amount down. And so we could start end of November, early December, doing open houses at the fire station so that people could see the condition, doing awareness about the needs to, because it's not just cosmetic at the fire station, it's the separation between hot zones and cold zones. That can be November and December. Even if we didn't have firm cost estimates and the true tax impact until, say, January, we would then spend January, February, and March helping people understand the implication on their tax bill, because that's what people are going to want to know, and looking at if there are creative ways that we can make this easier. Admittedly, we will not be able to contribute from the general fund for many, many years because of the $1 million to the middle school. But are there other things that we can talk about doing? So it is not impossible, assuming things go the way that we expect them to go. You've got some added complications, like will we have a definitive answer on potential projects on the Winslow School by then? Because remember, we're targeting the Winslow School parcel. So it's not impossible. This board will just have to be ready to take decisive action on some of the ancillary items before we advance.
I think we'll be ready to do that. How many are there? I think we have to, the rest of the town, we have to take them down that journey. Because I think we don't know where, right? We need to make sure everybody's on board with where and what it's gonna cost. And I think it's important for us to be, have a sense of urgency to push it as fast as it can go, but we can't fail. It's one of those ones where we're gonna have one shot at this.
Right, Mr. Chair, I agree, we've got to dot our i's, cross all our t's, but if we can give the cost estimate by the end of the calendar year, by December, I think we can put together a plan, but we'll see how it goes. I think we can put together a plan to do everything that you talked about, to communicate this very effectively to the residents. As Colin said earlier, right? I think there's widespread belief that we need a new fire station. A tour of the fire station will, if you don't believe it, please take a tour. Let us tell you what we really need for a fire station. And this is a garage that was made into a fire station. This isn't a fire station that we need long-term. And at some point, we need to make that decision. We need to make and go forward. But I think if we just put a plan together We'll see how it goes, but the goal, I think, should be 2026. See if we can put the plan together and make that happen. If we can't, then we'll have to push it off.
I think we're in agreement.
And we've never been, in my short tenure here, we've never pushed things too fast just to meet a goal.
Right.
Right? We don't just sit there and say, oh, I got to cross this off. No. We're going to do what's right.
Right.
But I think having it as a short-range goal for this fiscal year communicates the sense of urgency that this requires. So I think that's a good approach.
Okay. You have anything else? I thought you were the one who brought this up, but maybe not.
I had a question on one of the goals.
We're so far removed, I don't know.
That I need to understand. I want to understand so CPC, the description there is analysis of CPC. I just want to make sure that I understand what, do we have, and look at, explore potential future projects. Is that in our purview?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think that the look at what potential future projects are is a part of a bigger conversation about whether or not the town continues to fund CPC at the 3% level. Town meeting ultimately can reduce that level as low as 1%. And so this description, which I admittedly added to, it wasn't the original submission, points out that in examining what that right percentage is, we should look at, I hesitate to bring this up, but like, are there other large historic preservation projects that we foresee happening, right? We've already done the first parish, the Old Town Hall. Are there other large pieces of land that we would see? Those are your big budget drivers. Roughly, if we took, right now we collect 3%, our annual CPC revenue is like 1.1 million. So if that dropped to 1, it's like 4 and some change, 400,000. Certainly that's sufficient to cover what are like your one-off CPC expenditures, be it weed treatment, or even like the library has a historical project right now. They got 50 grand to preserve maps, right? But before you make such a big cut, you'd want to know, like, are we in 3 years going to want to preserve using CPC funds Bob Smith's house? Is it even an eligible expense? So that's kind of why I put that description in there.
If I could follow up on that. I had asked Colin a bunch of questions about the CPC because I was not familiar with how the funding works. So my question initially was, if we drop from 3 to 1%, where does the other 2% go? And so what Colin explained is that we would just stop collecting the other 2%. It's not like we could continue getting that tax revenue and then use it for another purpose. So I thought that that was really helpful for me to know. As Colin just said, it would decrease our annual revenue from that 1.1 million to 400,000, and then the state would continue. The state currently matches 2/3, right?
It varies depending on how they feel.
There is an amount that the state matches, and so let's say, hypothetically speaking, that the state matched 2/3 of the new 400,000. That would be an additional 125,000. So we'd have some pool of money year over year. And I think the other piece that we talked about was that likely this wouldn't be able to happen until fiscal year 28 anyway, because we have outstanding debt obligations to First Parish and Old Town Hall. And so I think that's also part of it is, if we know that realistically there isn't going to be a major project for a few years, do we continue funding at the high rate that we have been to have this pool of money? Or do we slow our contribution, not because we don't know yet what the long-term goal is? And
So,
yeah, there's pros and cons, so.
So Mr. Chair, you mentioned the long-term project, so I think the Old Town Hall has 2 more big payments to do, and then that's done. So then it's really just the First Parish. And then, yeah, we just got to go through all the analysis and figure out, we know we have one particular project, the First Parish, which is, got quite a few more payments. Look at what that's going to take. And then, like Colin said, what are the other big projects? I think if we reduced it by, I'll just say 1%, We would have been able to do all the projects that we've done, except the two big ones, right? Which is Old Town Hall and First Parish. Do we have another big one on the table? That's what the residents have to decide. And if we don't, I think it's something that whoever put this goal down, it's something that we should really look at and figure out maybe what that percentage should be. And, you know, if we're building a new fire station and, you know, we can't take it out of the operational budget, you know, this would be a way of lowering the tax impact to the residents also.
To that, Mr. Chair, the one thing I want to point out, because this is, you know, obviously none of these are my goals, I'm just telling you how I would help you get to these. But this is something that I've had conversations with residents about in the last year, exploring. We talked about as a part of our awareness campaign and trying to show how a new fire station is feasible. One of the questions that came up, and this is why, to Select Person Gilfus's point, I clarified where that 2% goes, is that a lot of people just think, well, we're collecting 3% on top of your taxes, and then if we reduce it to 1%, that 2%'s got to go somewhere else. Unfortunately, this is a local option statute we adopted, which allows you to collect 3%, up to 3% on top of the property taxes for this specific purpose. There is not another local option statute that allows you to collect a different tax in a similar fashion for a different use. In fact, the city of Boston has tried unsuccessfully multiple times to convince the legislature to let them do something similar. So the question that I got from multiple residents actually in the last year and a half was, well, can we say, all right, we'll still collect 3%, 1% will go to CPC and 2% will go toward a new public safety building. That's not legally feasible, but if we are at the point where we're talking about a debt exclusion, or we are, and we're looking at creative ways, well, if we're going to reduce the amount we're collecting through CPC by roughly $800,000, if we're doing a debt exclusion to kind of increase the taxes, that $800,000 is sort of a cushion to the taxpayers, because although we're going to go up on the taxes to build the fire station, the CPC amount we're billing is going down a little bit, so it will have a positive
That'd be a
impact in the end.
potentially a better appetite for it.
A couple things, and we may just want to make sure that we revisit CPC, right? Because, one, it ignores the first 100,000 in your value, so it's not the full value. We focus, so CPC, the allocation, the amount that you're charged, is they ignore the first $100,000 in value. So like when you pay your taxes on a house, let's say you have a $500,000 house, you're paying your taxes based on the full $500,000. For CPC, it does only on $400,000 because it ignores the first 100.
Okay, thank you.
Now, there are, I believe we allow people to exempt if you're of a certain age and even lower income, so there's an exemption for those types of things. Those aren't, those same exemptions, there are exemptions for your regular taxes, but not at the same level. So there's opportunities for exemptions. But the other thing that I think is important for people to understand about CPC is it's not just about historical, right? So open space and community housing are two of the ones that are underrepresented in what we've been doing up to this point. Yet, do we still have aspirations to have those types of things in our town? And are we thinking too short-term to find short-term funding for something and then biting ourselves in the butt because the state matches a lot of those funding? If you think about the success that CPC has been for us up to this point, and maybe that's an analysis at looking at it by sitting there saying, well, what do we get for our CPC funds? And let's make sure that we're not, we need to be looking at it long-term. And that's where I think it's one of those things to make sure that it's not just us. I think that the folks in CPC should be weighing in as well. Just because I think that there is more to it, and I would hate for us to take just a short-sighted view of that money so that we can figure out, hey, how do I squeeze a little bit out of this and get a little bit moving money around? So let's make sure.
But just to be, Mr. Chair, but just to be clear, we have talked about long-term, we have talked about the long-term project. We're not gonna take a short-term approach. It's a long conversation, it's a detailed conversation we need to have with the residents, and then we'll see what the residents decide they wanna do, which is what we've always done.
Right.
But we'll give them all the information, and it's, as you said, there's a lot of detail that we need to go through, and a lot of information we need to give the residents, just as you stated.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we will do that.
Thank you. Further comments or questions?
I thought there was some good thoughts. I thought you folks came up with some good ideas for some items, and I'm sure you did some wordsmithing to help merge some things together.
All right, then, if we have nothing else, do we want to vote to approve these goals and objectives as they sit right now? Do we want to ask Colin to make any further tweaks to them?
I mean, I know the tweak, I'll add to short-term goal using the schematic design to develop a public
Yep.
awareness campaign with the goal of presenting to town meeting for approval as early as May of 2026 for the fire station.
The discussion about the charter?
The charter, I would reword some of that.
Were you gonna add some other, like, some other things to it too? You were to
The only
say?
other thing was add, I'm sorry, I forgot this one, add innovation to the values.
Yeah.
Oh, and then what I was gonna do, once you've set your goals,
Right.
Milestones.
so it's not, you know, these are your goals, not mine, but then what I figured I would do is, once you've approved your goals, we would work for all of them, starting with the short range, because those are more immediate, show you what our work plan and milestones, so you have something to measure success against, but I'd want to make sure that you were all clear on what your goals are first. I don't want to tweak your goals to be easier for me, or,
So, Mr. Chair, I think we have discussed the goals with a few minor tweaks, and so I would be ready to approve the goals with those minor tweaks that Colin said.
Agreed.
Mike, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, the only one that, short-range goal, the traffic control plan for Middlesex Road, I think we really need to look at more than just that one little stretch. I think from, where the Route 3 on-ramp is down to, maybe where it goes down into, one lane.
Yep.
I just look at, we've got the 2 lanes going both ways, no left-hand turn, can we figure out if there's a better way? I know there's some lights that are there, we gotta work with the, with the state on that.
Yep.
But I'm wondering if that goal, because it's a short-range goal, yeah, that's great to fix, but I don't know that we're gonna be able to fix that until we think about something that's a little bit
my
longer?
only concern with expanding it is that we admittedly have zero control over Middlesex Road,
Right.
except for that this board is the licensing authority for the HCA's that these 2 businesses have, so you have wide latitude to require these 2 particular businesses to do certain things to mitigate traffic.
Got it.
Understood, and I can clarify in the description, that this obviously does involve the state. There is still at play the potential signalized intersection if the 406, 424 parcel was ever developed. And certainly, these all bleed into other things that we would probably want to include the state on. But my only concern about developing a traffic plan for a larger area that's outside of our control is we'd be kind of,
We wouldn't be able to
given
do
my
it.
very positive experience with the state, we'd be setting ourselves kind of at a disadvantage.
So can
I've
we
never had
do-
an issue with MassDOT, actually.
Can we
I'd like to
do a
present.
long-range goal that addresses the bigger issue? Short-range goal addresses the traffic at those 2? What if we did that?
I mean, I'd have the same comment that you don't have the authority over Middlesex Road.
But I think that we should be pushing MassDOT to, that's part of our economic development. If we're gonna,
yeah.
say economic development on the southern, that's more the southern part, but on the northern part, still continue to have that. We've gotta fix, it's gotta be better than what it is. And I'm not saying it's an easy goal and it's a slam dunk, but it should be on our goals to work to improve that whole situation. And we may get pushed down, but
We will.
I think it's our job to at least
My guy.
try.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree.
Teaching you well, Ron.
I've dealt with MassDOT
Yeah.
through the NIMCOG.
I
stuff,
can
so-
add, under long range, maybe, I know that we have a TIP development, traffic improvement plan that deals with the intersection of Middlesex and Locust. Maybe we can expand that to look at
That's a good one.
I can add that to long range, because
Mhm.
the TIP is like a 30-year TIP, so this is like super long range.
Hey, they added another lane for the
Yeah.
on-ramp, so on Middlesex Road onto Route 3, they're adding another left-hand turn there. Did we ask for that one? I mean, they're doing it, but, maybe we can work with them and have the things that are probably more important.
I can add that as a long range
I
goal.
think there's also, there's so much, I think that there's value in being able to make an informed recommendation to the state, and if they ignore it, that's kind of their business, but I think it is our obligation to try. In terms of voting on the goals, my gut is to wait until we actually have a final version. However, given that many of these goals need to be started right now, I think I would rather you use the next 3 weeks to come back with the milestones, so that way when we meet again, you have some tactical things for us to go over. So I'm fine voting based on what we have spoken about the changes being.
Comments?
Ready to vote?
Ready to vote? I think we are all ready to vote.
I move, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the goals as described with the updates that Colin has already mentioned, and that we will look at the milestones at our next meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That carries 500. Thank you. Okay, Select Board reports. Select Person Eldridge, you want to start us off?
Okay. So, big week. We already talked about the middle school. It's Party by the Bridge. Colin already said, looking for volunteers. I know I'll be volunteering. I know my colleagues will be as well. I did want to mention that there is going to be a table / booth / area for the Select Board during the party, where one or more of us will be there, and we can answer questions, listen to feedback. There will not be a pie smushing in the face or a dunk tank.
That you know of.
That I'm aware of. But it'll be an opportunity for people. We don't do office hours, which I know some of our newer select persons have had some great ideas and thoughts on how to do that, and I think that this is a good idea. I'm hoping I'm not stealing your thunder, but they will look for us, and we would love to talk to you and listen to what you have to say. But should be a great event for those folks who are coming in. Everybody be on their best behavior. It's a lot of people in a packed-in area. Have a lot of patience. Logistics are going to be fun, as Colin said. The traffic will be bad. It's one night, and it really is a fantastic night, day, the entire day for the whole family, and then finishing off with the fireworks. So I look forward to seeing everybody there.
Select Person Gilbus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I can't say I have much beyond that. I look forward to seeing folks at the block party. I will be there looking like this. Yeah, just looking forward to seeing everyone.
Thank you. Select Person Cohen.
Yeah, I went to the concert at the Ironwood Park. It was a great event. I would say approximately 150 people showed up. So it was really well, it was quite a few people. He was looking at me, he was really 150? That was I think it was 150 people there.
Awesome.
So a really good event, and I know there's another couple, I believe, coming up this year, which we will inform you when they are. And everybody, have a blast at the block party.
Have a blast at your family reunion.
Thank you.
Select Person Coughlin.
Yes, this will be my first party by the bridge. Yeah, no, I've never been, only because I've always been away. And so I changed my plans, and I'm really excited. I don't know if I'm gonna be on my best behavior, but just saying. No, I will, I promise. But no, I'm looking forward to it. I'm volunteering, and then I'm gonna be sitting at our booth, or whatever you wanna call it. I'll email you to see if there's anything that I can bring. Will there, do we need to like write up a poster? Is there something?
We've got you covered.
Okay, all right, great, thanks. So I'll just sit there and behave. I'm looking forward to it.
The bar is very high. Are you gonna have some little poop emoji?
We will have
Stress
things
balls?
for you to give out, as well as, more excitingly, critical information that people can obtain.
Oh,
I hope we can handle the crowd at our select board table.
It's right near the entrance, so people will have no choice but to walk by you.
Yep.
Or walk by you out. Either way, I'm not
Having been to several of the parties at the bridge, I will give you my personal recommendation. If you want to view the fireworks, do it from the front lawn of Notre Dame. That is the absolute best place to sit, spread out a blanket, and you get perfect view. So enjoy the bridge, enjoy the party, enjoy it responsibly. Stop by our table, our booth, not our dunk tank.
Maybe next year.
Yeah, next year.
Okay.
And bring your bug spray.
And bring your
Long
bug spray. Oh,
sleeves.
yes,
Long sleeves.
please do. Are we going to go into executive session?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move that we go into executive session under Exemption 3 to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares. Ferris v. Tyngsborough Planning Board and National Opioid Lawsuit. Under Exemption 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares, SEIU Local 888, Mid-Managers Union, and under Exemption 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, all non-union employees.
Second?
Thank you. A motion and a second. Do we need to do a roll call vote for this? We will do a roll call vote.
I was so
Select
ready
Person
for in
Coughlin.
favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
And I am also in favor.
All right, have a good night, everyone. Thank
night,
you very
everybody.
much.
See you Saturday.